I became lame trying to save my childhood friend, yet he thought I had staged the car accident just to separate him from the girl he loved. As a result, he hated me for the rest of his life. On his deathbed, he only said that if he could do it all over again, he'd rather be disabled than see me again. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment just before his car accident. I decided to let him have his way. This time, I didn't save him. 1. The smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. Ji-fan's parents were crying hysterically outside the operating room. My ears were blocked, and I couldn't hear clearly. Finally, my mother shook my arm vigorously. Li-uni, go and comfort your uncle and aunt. I came to my senses and shook my head. Just then, the doctor came out and regretfully told Ji-fan's parents to prepare themselves mentally. The car ran over the child's ankle, causing a comminuted fracture. He's alive, but his foot will be lame. In other words, Ji-fan would become disabled. Ji-fan's mother fainted on the spot, while I stared blankly at my own intact legs. They were of equal length, and I could still wear normal-sized shoes. I had been reborn. In my previous life, Ji-fan picked up a girl on his way home late at night. It was dark and cold, and Ji-fan must have seemed like a savior to her. Without hesitation, he took her home, and love quickly blossomed between them. She adored him, and he pitied her. However, this relationship wasn't favored by Ji-fan's parents. They didn't like the girl and strongly urged Ji-fan to send her back to her own home. Later, at the dinner table, Ji-fan's parents started nagging. Think for yourself. What kind of girl wanders the streets alone at 3 in the morning? Ji-fan frowned. I told you, she had a fight with her parents. Just because of a fight with her parents, she can casually move into a boy's house she's only known for a few hours. Ji-fan, don't be so naive. Look at Uni. Ask her parents if they'd let Uni move into someone else's. I was just minding my own business, eating, when I was suddenly dragged into the conversation. Before the sentence was finished, Ji-fan slammed his bowl and ran out. In my previous life, I was afraid he'd do something impulsive, so I chased after him. I didn't hear clearly what Ji-fan shouted at me. All I saw was a runaway truck speeding towards us from the side of the road. Almost instinctively, I rushed forward and pushed Ji-fan away, but I couldn't dodge in time and got hit on the ankle. From then on, I became lame. My right foot swelled up so much that I could only wear specially made size 45 shoes. Ji-fan felt guilty, and a few days later, he even proposed to marry me. I asked, what about her? Ji-fan shrugged indifferently. My parents don't approve anyway. It's going nowhere, so why hold on? He sounded so carefree, but after marriage, he loathed me. Later, he often begged me to drink with him, crying. Because of the alcohol, my foot ulcerated, became infected, and eventually, I had to have it amputated due to delayed treatment. But then I heard Ji-fan complaining to his parents, what's the difference between a paralyzed person and a dead one? Why doesn't Li-uni just die? Everything I endured stemmed from that one act of kindness towards Ji-fan, yet he wanted me dead. In complete despair, I turned on the gas at home late at night, as the fire raged. Ji-fan left me in the inferno, desperately looking for a way out, but it was useless. No one could escape. Before we died, Ji-fan shouted at me, if I could do it all over again, I'd rather be disabled than see you again. 2. I was reborn. This time, when Ji-fan ran out, I didn't chase after him. In my previous life, he often said jokingly, if you hadn't followed me out that day, I wouldn't have turned around on the road, and maybe both of us would have been fine. Well, in this life, the inevitable still happened. As I was sighing at the irony of fate, a loud roar came from the ward. Ji-fan had woken up and couldn't accept that he had become lame. Son, don't move around. The doctor said it's a comminuted fracture. It's already a miracle you're recovering like this. I turned around to see Ji-fan stubbornly jump out of bed and try to walk on his right foot, but after just one step, he let out a scream and fell to the ground, muttering, impossible, it's just a simple fracture. I won't be lame. Ji-fan's mother turned around, covering her mouth as she cried silently. My heart ached. Aunt Ji had always been kind to me. In my previous life, she took meticulous care of me. Seeing her like this, I just felt angry that she had such a disappointing son. I walked over helplessly and called a nurse to help get Ji-fan back into bed, but he pushed me away. Get lost. My foot is fine. I can walk on my own. I stopped the nurse when she tried to help him. The roles were suddenly reversed from my previous life. Now, I looked down at him struggling on the ground. After getting married in my previous life, Ji-fan thought I had staged the car accident to separate him from the girl he loved, and he hated me deeply for it. Once, when I needed to use the restroom and tried to move from the bed to the wheelchair by myself, I accidentally tipped over the wheelchair and fell to the ground. I struggled for a long time but couldn't get up. When I finally looked up, I saw Ji-fan hiding behind the door, watching me with satisfaction in the mirror. At that moment, my heart turned to ice. Just then, a voice brought me back to the present. Ji-fan, stop this nonsense and focus on getting better, okay? I'm begging you, son. Looking at Aunt Ji trembling all over, I let out a sigh. Ji-fan, if you keep this up, your foot will get even worse. It'll swell so much you won't be able to fit your shoes. The nurse gave me a curious look, as if asking how I knew. Of course I knew. I had endured all that pain myself. How could I forget? 3. In this life, I didn't want any more involvement with Ji-fan, but my mother couldn't let go of the long-standing friendship between our families and insisted that I pick Ji-fan up from the hospital. When they removed his cast, a foul smell hit me. After not taking a bath for so many days, the stench of sweat mixed with the smell of the cast was overwhelming. I couldn't help but frown and take 2 steps back. Ji-fan, however, quietly gripped the bed sheet tightly, with such a strong sense of pride. How would he cope in the future? On the way home, I casually asked, Ji-fan got hurt because of that girl. Hasn't she come to see him these past few days? Ji-fan's parents looked furious at the mention of her. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Ji-fan press his lips into a thin line. After a long while, he finally managed to speak. Io said she's busy lately but will come to take care of me in a couple of days. Having grown up together, I knew exactly what he meant, just being stubborn and trying to hold on. Aunt Ji was about to say something, but Uncle Ji stopped her with a wave of his hand. But I didn't want Ji-fan to have an easy time. I turned to Aunt Ji and said, let Ji-fan do whatever he wants. He's already upset about his injury, and being in a good mood will help him recover. I didn't ask for anything else. I just hoped Ji-fan and Tong Yao would stay together and stop hurting others. Aunt Ji looked at me, hesitant to speak, but in the end, she held back. I understood what she was thinking. Ji-fan and I had grown up together, and our parents had always secretly expected us to end up together. As for my feelings for Ji-fan, I tilted my head, thinking, I couldn't remember when that innocent love first started. As for when it faded away, maybe it was when Ji-fan yelled at me, thinking I was trying to bully Tong Yao, or when he forgot my birthday because he was too busy sending her home. Anyway, now I regarded him as a stranger. I wouldn't seek revenge deliberately, nor would I get involved in anything related to Ji-fan ever again. I hoped he and Tong Yao would last. I just wondered if that girl named Io could endure what was to come. 4. Both my family and Ji-fan's lived in detached villas. Although we were neighbors, as long as I didn't go near his place on purpose, we wouldn't run into each other for days. The next time I saw Ji-fan was a week later. He was being pushed around the neighborhood by the girl he loved when my mother and I, who had just come back from the supermarket, ran into them. Auntie, let me officially introduce you. This is my fiancé, Tong Yao. In front of his beloved, all the hostility in Ji-fan vanished. The dappled shadows of the leaves fell on his face, and the genuine smile in his eyes was impossible to miss. My mother and I smiled and congratulated them, but Tong Yao pulled her hand away from Ji-fan's. Ji-fan, don't talk nonsense. Tong Yao twisted shyly. My mom doesn't even know about us yet. After all these years, the old confident look finally returned to Ji-fan's face. If you're willing to marry me, I'm willing to marry you, Io. This is a done deal. I didn't have the heart to shatter the sweet fantasy Ji-fan had created for himself. When we got home, my mother sighed. Poor Ji-fan, he used to be so tall. Now, I shook my head. It's his own choice. It was the same in my previous life and this one, I said casually, but my mother just kept sighing and looking towards the neighbor's house. She said, what a pity for Aunt Ji. Looking in the direction my mother was staring, I saw Aunt Ji sitting on the swing in the yard, lost in thought. It seemed that overnight, her hair had turned a lot grayer. In my previous life, Ji-fan had always complained. He said that if it weren't for me, he and Tong Yao would have already gotten married and had children. I retorted, I never wanted to marry you. Weren't you the one who said you had to take responsibility for me because I got hurt saving you? That's the way it is with kindness. Too much can turn into resentment. He stared at my leg with a look in his eyes I couldn't understand. Li-uni, stop pretending. I know you like me and have always wanted to marry me. This is all just a ploy to marry me. You and my mom planned this together, trying to morally blackmail me into submission. I fell silent. Li-uni, thought I was pretty decent in many ways, Why would I deliberately make myself disabled for a man who couldn't tell right from wrong? When Aunt G saw us looking at her, she hurriedly wiped away her tears. I lowered my head, saying nothing. Ji-fan still seemed to think that his meeting with Tong Yao was fate. Little did he know that in my previous life, I had someone look into it, and it turned out Tong Yao was just trying to catch a rich man. She had walked that road where Ji-fan went home more than 10 times. 5. Aunt G brought us the invitation to the engagement party. There was regret in her eyes. I smiled and handed the invitation to my mother. Then said, Auntie, I partnered with a friend to open a homestay. It's opening the day after tomorrow, and I'm leaving tomorrow. In my previous life, when I was in a wheelchair and Ji-fan ignored me, only my college roommate would often come to take care of me. I don't know how she found out about my situation, but every time I fell from my wheelchair, she would struggle to lift me up, but she herself was in a tough spot. Married to a gambler who had squandered all their savings, this time. Before she married that gambler, I took her to another city to make money, all to repay her kindness from my previous life. Aunt G was taken aback, saying my departure was so sudden. That night, someone knocked on the door. When I opened it, it was Ji-fan. He was on crutches, and his right foot was so swollen he could only wear oversized slippers. I frowned, wanting to close the door, but Ji-fan suddenly reached out to stop me. After looking at each other for a moment, he took out some wedding candies from his pocket. I heard you're going out of town to open a homestay and can't make it to my engagement party. I nodded but didn't take the candies. After a long silence, he suddenly apologized. I didn't mean to snap at you during dinner last time. I was just so angry at my mom. Don't take it to heart. What had he said? Oh, right. Aunt G didn't approve of Tong Yao and thought Ji-fan and I should be together. Ji-fan took his anger out on me and shouted, Impossible, I have no feelings for Li Yuni at all. Give up on this idea. I wasn't sure if he was saying that to me or to Aunt G, but it didn't matter now. I smiled. Okay, I need to pack my things. You should go. The next day, I met up with my friend and took a plane. Thankfully, the homestay was doing well, with many people coming to visit. There, we heard countless stories from different people. One night, when we were working the night shift and drinking and singing with the guests, Shinzi suddenly said, Li Yuni, you seem different. I blinked. How so? You're so capable now and won't let anyone help you. I remember in college, you were the complete opposite. You'd even want me to hand you a glass of water while you were in bed. I laughed at her exaggerated description. In my previous life, I needed help with everything after I became disabled. In this life, since I'm okay, I want to pay back all that kindness. 6. The next time I saw Ji-fan was a year later. When I got home, I happened to see the neighbors moving out. I ran into Uncle G, but as soon as he recognized me, he turned and walked away. It was completely unexpected. Mom, where are the G family moving to? I asked out of curiosity. This time I was home. I could tell that the atmosphere between our two families had become strange. Did something happen while I was away? But my mother just frowned, then waved her hand and refused to say anything. From my bedroom window, I could see next door clearly. Ji-fan was hobbling around on crutches, unable to put his right foot on the ground. Suddenly, Uncle G lost his temper. He threw a cardboard box roughly into the car and then kicked Ji-fan in the butt, just like when Ji-fan was a child and got punished. But this time, from the bits of conversation I overheard, I sensed something was wrong. And where was Tong Yao? I guess my nosy look was too obvious, because my mom slapped me irritably and said, Aren't they engaged? Lao Ji sees how determined his son is, so even if he's reluctant, there's nothing he can do. Besides, look at Ji-fan. How could he find another girlfriend in his state? My mom is extremely empathetic. Get to the point. After interrupting her rambling, I learned that Tong Yao had scammed Ji-fan out of 188 million yuan in betrothal gifts. Although our two families have some money, it's not enough to squander like this. But the Ji family just wanted them to get engaged quickly and live happily ever after, so they transferred the 188 million yuan to Tong Yao's account during the engagement banquet. However, 3 months later, Tong Yao suddenly claimed that she had a miscarriage and caused a huge scene at the Ji family's house. In short, she wanted to call off the engagement. Tong Yao said at the time, This cripple couldn't even protect our child. What good would it do me to marry him? I must break off the engagement. Ji-fan was so angry that he was stunned. With her son in this state, Aunt G of course didn't want to break off the engagement easily. In the end, they had no choice but to say that she could call off the engagement. but she had to return the 188 million yuan in betrothal gifts. But Tang Yao's family insisted that the 188 million yuan was compensation for the miscarriage. They refused to give back a single cent. Just like that, the Ji family lost both their money and their dignity. They've lived in this neighborhood for most of their lives. Now, they can no longer bear to stay here out of shame. 7. After hearing the gossip, I didn't pay much more attention to the Ji family's situation. But unexpectedly, Ji Fan actually messaged me and asked to meet in the neighborhood garden. I refused without a second thought, but my mom urged me to go and persuade Ji Fan. Ji Fan arrived late and stumbled when walking on the gravel path. Seeing that I didn't move from my seat, he looked a bit awkward. Do you also think I'm stupid? Now I become the laughingstock of the whole neighborhood. Thinking about the sweet and sour pork ribs my mom made, I replied without hesitation, yes. I hadn't seen Ji Fan for a year, and he had lost a lot of weight. His clothes were no longer the brand name items they used to be. He had become slovenly. Ji Fan laughed self-deprecatingly and moved his heavy right foot. Look at this foot, I really want to cut it off. Well, if he continues to give up on himself like this, it probably won't be long before he actually does it. I'm kind of looking forward to it. However, although 188 million yuan wouldn't completely bankrupt the Ji family, it was enough to give them a huge shock. After a moment of silence, Ji Fan suddenly looked at me seriously. Uni, if I said the child in Tang Yao's belly wasn't mine at all, would you believe me? Huh? In response to my shocked expression, Ji Fan pointed at his foot with a bitter smile. Look at me now. My foot is so swollen that it hurts at the slightest touch. What could I have done? But Tang Yao, it was all an act, just slander. With his hands in his pockets, looking up at the sky, the more he tried to pretend not to care, the more obvious the pain on his face became. She latched onto a rich second generation and wanted to get rid of me quickly. This was actually something I expected. However, Tang Yao was really cruel. She cheated on him and then turned around to blame him, even keeping the betrothal gifts with a clear conscience. I wonder if he regrets it now. Ji Fan asked me. You used to be on high alert whenever you heard Tang Yao's name. Why didn't you stop me when I ran out that day? I suddenly found myself at a loss for words. See, no matter the circumstances, men can always shift the blame onto you. Not wanting to be alone with him any longer, I stood up and kept a safe distance from him. I'm leaving. Let's not contact each other unless necessary. Just as I was about to leave, Ji Fan suddenly grabbed my wrist. If you had stopped me then, would the outcome be different now? I pulled my hand away and said coldly, no, I mean, I wouldn't have stopped you. 8. This time I came home to take a short vacation and also give Chini enough time to sort out her own affairs. Yes, fate is so mysterious. After going through so much, she and her boyfriend got back together. I didn't try to persuade them to break up. To some extent, Chini is just like Ji Fan, stubborn until they hit rock bottom. All I could do was give Chini some confidence. In the 3 years since we opened the homestay, we split the profits 50-50. My savings have been growing steadily. But Chini has nothing left. Her boyfriend has taken it all. But I'm glad she finally saw through her boyfriend's true nature as a gambler before getting married. After not coming home for a year, I was treated like a princess as soon as I got back. But just a week later, my mom came home and slammed the door. I jumped out of bed and took out a stack of banknotes from my bag. Here, is this enough? I imitated what I saw on my phone, trying to silence her with money. But then I realized that my mom's eyes were red. What's wrong? I put away my playful attitude. Did you argue with Dad again after going out? My mom, who had been neighbors with the Ji family for over a decade, pointed at their building and called them shameless for the first time. Your dad said there were some problems with the Ji family's company, so I kindly asked if they needed help, but guess what his mom said? I listened attentively as tears streamed down my mom's face in anger. She told me to go home and persuade you to marry Ji Fan. I was speechless. How brazen could they be? She kept saying that it was Ji Fan who was in the wrong, and that she could tell you had feelings for him. But when Ji Fan did those things before, why didn't they discipline their son properly? I almost laughed out of anger. I never expected the Ji family to be so blatant about finding a fallback. We raised our daughter well. Why should she go and be a nanny for their son? It's not like she can't get married. As she spoke, my mom kept stealing glances at me. Seeing that I didn't say anything, her voice softened. Uni, to be fair, you two grew up right under our eyes, don't you still? I stuffed the money into my mom's hand. Absolutely not. Don't even think about it. it would be more painful than death for me to marry G-Fan again, now that I've been given a second chance at life. As for the G family, it seems that without my intervention, they can ruin themselves just fine. 9. In my previous life, my relationship with G-Fan completely broke down after a night of drinking. I thought G-Fan had truly given up on Tong Yao. Half a year after we got married, G-Fan unexpectedly had dinner and drank with me that day. After a few drinks, I started crying, hugging my knees. At the best age of my 20s, I had become a cripple. G-Fan, uncharacteristically, gently wiped my tears away. Don't cry, you have me now. I looked at him through my tears, feeling that this gentle man in front of me was too good to be true. Under his sweet words, my last line of defense finally crumbled. I couldn't help but hug his neck and cry loudly. G-Fan, I can never wear high heels again. G-Fan stroked my back gently. It's okay. I know you got hurt saving me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. I pulled away from his embrace and asked, really, after knowing G-Fan for 20 years, I knew how he looked when he was happy. I could tell that he wasn't happy after we got married, but G-Fan wiped away my tears one by one and swore it was true. What about you, Liuni? Do you like me? Or rather, have you always wanted to marry me? The feelings I had never revealed when I was young resurfaced. My heart was pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. Under his intense gaze, I said, yes, but then, I watched as the warmth in G-Fan's eyes faded, replaced by mockery. He stood up suddenly, putting distance between us, and pointed at me, calling me shameless. Just because you wanted to, you deliberately staged this whole thing to force me to marry you. I'll never be able to marry the woman I love. Are you satisfied? Liuni, I'm disgusted by the 20 years I spent living with you. The drunkenness vanished instantly, and I was left stunned, struggling to process what was happening. The sudden change was beyond my expectations, but my confusion only seemed like a joke to G-Fan. Stop pretending. If I hadn't done this, you'd never have told the truth. How long are you going to keep playing the victim? Liuni, then, with a bang, G-Fan slammed the door and left. That night, I felt as if I had been crushed under his feet. Later, I found out that it was the day Tong Yao got engaged. She married an older man in the social circle and even had a stepson 3 years younger than her. 10. After G-Fan's mom tried to set us up, I completely gave the G family the cold shoulder. G-Fan's mom tried to talk to me privately several times. Each time, I used the most impatient tone to tell her that my wonderful life wasn't meant for taking care of a cripple. Finally, she gave up. After all, in this life, I've achieved some success, and I steer clear of anything unpleasant. After Qinzi broke up with her boyfriend, we went back to the homestay the next day. A month passed peacefully, but then Qinzi's ex-boyfriend showed up. That day, he drove away 2/3 of our customers. Qinzi got so angry that she called the police, but the rogue said, "Officer, this is a love dispute. My ex-girlfriend owes me money and won't pay it back. I'm here to collect the debt. I'll leave as soon as I get the money." The first time, he was driven away. The second time, he was driven away again, but after several times, even the police were at a loss. This kind of law-savvy scoundrel is the hardest to deal with. Since he hasn't hurt you, we can't arrest him. Qinzi was so angry that she cried. You took over 100,000 yuan from me, and now you're turning around and blaming me. I'm telling you. No way. The rogue snorted coldly, pulled up a chair, and sat at the door. He clearly wasn't going anywhere until he got his money. For 3 consecutive days, our business was extremely poor. Just when Qinzi was about to give in and pay the money, the security guards from my company finally arrived. They quickly dealt with the rogue, leaving him with bumps all over his head. Just as he was about to leave, G-Fan showed up. The rogue, who was already bruised and battered, suddenly became arrogant. If it isn't young Master G. G-Fan was already well known in our area, so it was normal for the rogue to recognize him. Young Master G, who got cuckolded by his fiancée, is here to play the hero. Maybe you could spare some change for me. 880,000 yuan would be great. Haha. G-Fan's face turned red with anger as he told the rogue to get lost. Finally, he threatened, if you come here to cause trouble again, I'll beat you up every time I see you. But the rogue sneered, looked G-Fan up and down, and said mockingly, G-Fan, do you still think you're a rich second generation? Everyone knows what happened to your family. Shameless thing. G-Fan clenched his fists and remained silent. On the verge of outbreak, I couldn't be bothered with him and turned back into the homestay. After all, my money and my family's influence are my confidence. I don't need him to play the hero for me. 11. But I underestimated Ji-fan's audacity. He limped into the homestay, looking around with envy in his eyes. Finally, I asked coldly, "Does your parents know you're here?" Ji-fan kept his head down and didn't answer. "Ji-fan, don't tell me you just came to see my homestay." Looking at this taciturn man, my patience wore thin. He only spoke when I told him to leave. He said, "Li-uni, my family has gone bankrupt." Even though I had some inkling, I was still stunned when I heard Ji-fan say it himself. How could this happen? As far as I knew, the Ji family owned several stores in prime locations with high foot traffic. Those stores alone should have been enough for him to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Under my repeated questioning, Ji-fan, a grown man, actually broke down and cried in the homestay. In that moment, I felt as if I was looking at my past self through him. But Ji-fan in my previous life wasn't as patient as I was. Every time I cried, he would just slam the door and leave. "Li-uni, I regret it. I want you to come back." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. In my previous life, he said he regretted being with me. In this life, he says he regrets it and wants me back. There's no such thing as having it all. I was never really by your side, so what do you mean by come back? Tell me about the bankruptcy. After a while, Ji-fan reluctantly explained the whole story. 12. Ji-fan had hoped to marry me based on our past relationship, but after spending 188 million yuan, most of his family's money was gone. Just as he was trying to make money, he heard about an investment opportunity. It was said to be a sure thing. At first, Ji-fan was very cautious, but when he only invested 200,000 yuan and the other party kept sending him all kinds of things, delicacies, jewelry, he was blinded. He invested all of his family's savings and even took out tens of millions in loans. However, a month later, Ji-fan realized something was wrong. By the time he fully understood, the scammers were long gone. The Ji family's savings were completely drained. To pay off the loans, the banks took over their stores. Now, the three of them have no source of income. Li-uni, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have ignored my mom's advice. If I had married you, our family wouldn't be in this mess. I frowned in disgust. This is just sheer stupidity on your part. It has nothing to do with who you marry. No. Ji-fan shook his head, and his tears landed on my arm. I wiped them off in disgust, only to hear him say, "My dad asked around and found out that the scammers were related to Tong Yao's husband. They did this to get back at me." When I heard this, I almost wanted to applaud. I never expected Tong Yao to have such a scheme up her sleeve. The Ji family went bankrupt, and Aunt Ji was hospitalized. Although my mother had paid little attention to Aunt Ji in recent years, she finally went to the hospital to visit her. Not only that, but she also called me with a sigh, "Your Aunt Ji took good care of you when you were a child. She had a stroke out of anger. You should go and see her too. Anyway, we won't have much interaction with them in the future." A stroke. The situation was much more serious than I had imagined. Aunt Ji was completely paralyzed in the hospital bed and couldn't move. Her mouth was pouting to the right, and saliva was dripping down. When she saw me, Aunt Ji's tears immediately welled up. I couldn't understand what Aunt Ji was saying, but I didn't want to hear her talk about making me marry Ji-fan at this moment either. I politely and distantly put down the fruit basket. "Aunt, take good care of yourself. Everything will be okay." My mother didn't say anything. In the end, she silently peeled an apple. Ji-fan's wrong choice had caused his whole family and himself to suffer. In my previous life, after I married Ji-fan, Uncle Ji and Aunt Ji were nice to me at first, but later, because I hadn't gotten pregnant, their attitude gradually turned cold. Plus, in this life, Ji-fan was lame, and they still wanted to tie me to him. I really couldn't bring myself to be nice to them, but my mother softened her heart. She paid some of Aunt Ji's hospitalization fees and hired a nurse to take care of her. When we got home, she was still in tears. "Tell me, what on earth happened to your Aunt Ji in this life? She used to feed the stray cats in the community. How could she end up like this in her old age? It's all that brat Ji-fan's fault." "Yuni, can the money that was scammed be recovered?" It was possible, but it was very difficult. This matter was deliberately targeted at Ji-fan by Tong Yao. The scammed money might be in her hands. "Yuni, we can ignore that scoundrel Ji-fan, but your Aunt Ji's nursing fees in the future will be a huge amount." I lowered my eyes. I didn't care about Aunt Ji's nursing fees, but I suddenly wanted to meet that Tong Yao. 14. The husband that Tong Yao had latched onto was a big shot in our local area. I naturally wouldn't act recklessly, but hard work pays off. I discovered the secret between Tong Yao and her stepson when we met in the coffee shop. Tong Yao sneered when she saw me. I wondered who it was. You were my defeated opponent a few years ago. How dare you come and show off in front of me now? I smiled but said nothing. I just raised my chin to signal her to sit down and talk. Tong Yao probably just wanted to see what tricks I, her defeated opponent, could come up with. But when she saw the photo on my phone clearly, she immediately sat up straight. Li Yunyi, what do you mean? I threw my phone on the table. It means nothing. I just want to learn from you. How on earth did you get along so harmoniously with your stepson? Tong Yao snatched my phone and tried to delete the photo, but the photo I showed her was the wallpaper of my phone, and she didn't even know the password. Li Yunyi, aren't you being shameless? It's been so long since our business. Why are you here trying to show off? You just can't stand seeing me do well, right? I raised my eyebrows. I really didn't want to see her do well. Because my miserable experience in my previous life was somewhat related to her. In my previous life, I found out more than once that the two of them were flirting privately after our marriage, but the life Tong Yao was living now really wasn't considered good in my eyes. Her husband had yellow teeth and was a lecher. People in the circle knew that he had some special perverted preferences and liked to torture people the most. Her stepson was also not normal. The photo made me feel disgusted. So I got straight to the point. The money of the Ji family was scammed by your people. Give the money back. When I said this, Tong Yao laughed. She laughed so hard that she leaned back and forth and exaggeratedly wiped the tears of laughter from her eyes. After all that, is it still for that idiot? Li Yunyi, seriously, after all this time, you still like him? Ha 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 ha, you've never seen a good man in your life. I frowned. You can say other things about me, but I can't stand it when you say I'm doing this for Ji Fan. 15. I crossed my arms and looked at her. I asked sincerely, Tong Yao, is there only men in your head in this life? Tong Yao wasn't ashamed but rather proud. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Of course, you can pretend to be high and mighty. What's wrong with me climbing up the social ladder through men? I hate you rich people the most. You're full of the smell of money. Yet you still accuse us of being shameless for the sake of money. Li Yunyi, so what if you're rich? You still lost to me, didn't you? I smiled and looked at her leisurely. Since you won, why are you still going to great lengths and using unscrupulous means to deal with his family? It's all because of your wounded pride. Tong Yao's expression froze for a moment, and then she gritted her teeth and warned me, I destroyed the Ji family. And I can destroy your family too. I tapped the screen of my phone unhurriedly. The wallpaper appeared in front of Tong Yao again. I smiled and retorted, transfer the money to my card by 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. If you can't, I'll show this wallpaper to others. After saying that, I got up and left. When I passed by Tong Yao, I whispered in her ear, wasn't Ji Fan someone you went to great lengths to get? Why treat your former sugar daddy like this? Do you consider him your dark history? A few steps away, I heard the sound of a cup being smashed behind me. I curled the corners of my lips. She had married into a wealthy family, yet she still couldn't keep her cool. She was nothing special. 16. The next day, I received the money. I casually transferred the money to my mother. Should we give it to your Uncle G? I smiled. Mom, after giving the money to them, let's not care about them anymore. We're not the same kind of people as them. My mother was silent for a long time, and finally, she nodded. Okay, Aunt G was lying in the hospital bed now. Could Uncle G take care of her consistently? I firmly believed that a family with a proper upbringing couldn't raise a scoundrel like Ji Fan, but what did it have to do with us? In the future, we would all just be strangers. Later, my mother transferred the money and then came to my newly expanded homestay with my father to help out. It was also to stay away from the Ji family. 2 years later, Qin Zi suddenly said cautiously that when she went home to visit her parents, she accidentally met Ji Fan. To make a living, he went to work in a restaurant, but you know, our hometown is a small place. As soon as the news of Ji Fan's job spread, my asshole ex went to make fun of him. I heard that Ji Fan was fired by the boss within a few days of each job because the small business couldn't withstand the harassment of those thugs who were watching him like hawks every day. He was forced to beg under the overpass. I nodded. I didn't feel anything inside. Compared to my previous life when I was forced to commit suicide by him, this was nothing. But I was a little curious about one thing. Did his parents completely abandon him? Qin Zi hesitated for a moment. The car ran over the child's ankle, causing a comminuted fracture. But, his mother seemed to have died half a year ago due to improper care. This ending was within my expectations, but when I met Chinzi's gaze, I asked her, "Do you think I'm too heartless and unfeeling?" Chinzi frowned. After a moment, she shook her head. "Everything that happened to the G family was their own doing. What does it have to do with you?" I nodded and turned around to continue making tea. But Chinzi chattered behind me, "Yuni, you mustn't think that way. Feeling sorry for that scumbag will bring you bad luck for a lifetime." Yes, that's right, but fortunately, in this life, we were all far away from scumbags and had a new life. Story 2. It's the 4th year of my secret relationship with my uncle, who is a family friend. On my 22nd birthday, he promised to get the marriage certificate with me and make our relationship public, but that day, I waited in the restaurant until the clock struck 12. Instead, I received a video of him passionately kissing a hot girl. I knew that girl. Her name was Chin Xia, my senior sister, and a sex addiction sufferer. It was the same in my previous life. After receiving the video, I went crazy and rushed to the bar to ask Liang Zhe for an explanation, but he just smiled and casually pulled me into his arms, whispering softly, "Jia, I've already given all my love to you, we shouldn't be too greedy." Should we? That night, I exposed the fact that I was in a relationship with Liang Zhe. I originally thought that even if I became infamous, I would go down with him, but I underestimated Liang Zhe. With just one sentence, "Jia, you're not well." Everyone said that I had delusional disorder. Later, Liang Zhe imprisoned me in this Shangshan villa. He always tried to persuade me, saying, "Jia, sex and love can be separated." Finally, one night, I set the entire villa on fire. But I never expected that. I was reborn and returned to the day of my 22nd birthday. 1. Student Jiang. Are you sure there's no problem with the itinerary in 3 days? I glanced at the message sent by my senior brother Lin Guannan. Just after I replied, "No problem," there came the sound of the door opening downstairs. It was Liang Zhe who had come back. He was also accompanied by Chin Xia, my senior sister. She was still wearing the bright and enchanting red short skirt from the video she sent me last night. Her long wavy hair was draped over her shoulders. The two of them sat down on the sofa. Chin Xia's fair and beautiful left foot was placed on Liang Zhe's legs. She was seducing him intentionally or unintentionally. Liang Zhe slightly frowned, but he just said softly, "Don't act like a slut here." Chin Xia wasn't annoyed. She smiled and hooked her hands around Liang Zhe's neck. "Mr. Liang, I've sprained my foot, can't you be a bit gentler?" Liang Zhe sneered, raised his right hand, and forcefully pinched Chin Xia's chin. "Do you think you're Rujia? Chin Xia, you'd better recognize your own status." As the last syllable fell, Chin Xia straightened her body. Liang Zhe's fingertips slid across her chin and neck. Finally, he grabbed her neck with one hand, leaned close to her ear, and said, "Ask the family doctor to take a look at your sprained ankle. If there's nothing wrong, leave here. If Rujia sees you, you'll bear the consequences." After saying the warning and threatening words, Liang Zhe pushed Chin Xia away, slowly unbuttoned the cuffs of his shirt, rolled up his sleeves to his arms, and then entered the kitchen, leaving Chin Xia where she was. Chin Xia stared at Liang Zhe's back and clenched her fists unwillingly. When she raised her eyes, she saw me standing at the corner of the second floor. There was jealousy and resentment in her eyes. If I hadn't been reborn, I think at this moment, I would have already had a fierce argument with Liang Zhe and Chin Xia. Instead of just watching it as a play, the moment I was reborn yesterday, the video in my hand happened to freeze on the picture of them passionately kissing. At that time, I still had lingering hatred and thought about strangling Liang Zhe to death, but reason prevailed. In my previous life, with just one sentence from him, Rujia's mental state is a bit abnormal. The doctor said she has delusional disorder. Everything collapsed overnight. I became the pervert in everyone's mouth who was shameless and delusional about her own uncle. Everyone spurned me, and I was removed from the family register. Finally, I was secretly imprisoned in the Shangshan villa by Liang Zhe. The Liang family has deep-rooted influence in Beijing. I couldn't fight against Liang Zhe, so, in this life, I just want to leave Liang Zhe, and live a stable life, too. Chin Xia still didn't dare to provoke Liang Zhe directly. After the family doctor sprayed medicine for her, she left, but the strange number on my phone sent me 2 more text messages. This time, Chin Xia didn't hide her identity anymore. She said frankly, "Jiang Rujia, do you really think Liang Zhe loves you? A prodigal son is a prodigal son. Do you really hope he can settle down?" You've really stayed in the ivory tower for too long, you're so stupid. I couldn't help but be lost in thought. The corners of my lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Liang Zhe is a family friend of my mother. 10 years ago, the female secretary my father was having an affair with got pregnant and came to my mother to ask for a proper status. It became known to everyone. My mother was so angry that she vomited blood. Finally, she couldn't bear the betrayal and jumped off a building to commit suicide. After her death, my father, filled with remorse, forced the secretary's child to have an abortion. While they were arguing in the car, they both died. Overnight, I became an orphan, and my uncles and aunts all kept their distance from me. It was Liang Zhe who took care of my mother's funeral and brought me back to the Liang family, for a full 12 years. At that time, Liang Zhe was a well-known prodigal son in the circle, with countless women around him, but after he started raising me, he restrained all his temper, cut off all his romantic relationships, quit smoking, and even got rid of his dissolute habit of always getting drunk in bars. He showed me his best side. As long as I was around, even for the gatherings organized by his friends, Liang Zhe would greet them in advance, saying, "Don't smoke during the gathering, replace all the alcohol with juice, and don't swear either." His friends were always amused by this, but they still did as he said. Everyone knew that I was the one Liang Zhe protected, his most precious little niece. No one dared to provoke me. No one dared to offend me, and no one dared to like me either, until I turned 18. On my coming-of-age ceremony, Liang Zhe gave me a beautiful pink diamond necklace, which was worth a fortune and was unique, but I still couldn't get excited about it. Liang Zhe also noticed my mood and thought that someone had bullied me. He checked all my whereabouts of that day countless times, asked the bodyguard who was secretly following me, and questioned the servants in the villa. When he still couldn't find anything wrong, he frowned. He symbolically knocked on the door of my bedroom. When he pushed the door open and saw me lying on the bed with a flushed face, he was slightly taken aback. It was already past 3 o'clock in the morning at that time. Liang Zhe snatched my phone away. After seeing the chat records between me and a senior with a cold face, a gloomy aura emanated from his whole body. I added the senior after getting to know him in a club. He wasn't as good-looking as Liang Zhe, but he was very interesting. Every night, he would tell me all kinds of little stories to make me happy. Even when he saw the fallen leaves on the road, he would share it with me. He was just confessing his love to me. After Liang Zhe read it, he was so angry that he laughed. He blocked the senior directly with smooth movements. "Jiang Rujia, you actually like someone like him." I don't know what stimulated me that day. I scolded Liang Zhe for a long time. Scolding him for his strong control, for meddling in my affairs, scolding him for blocking all my chances of having a romantic relationship. By the end, my voice was choked with sobs, and tears fell uncontrollably. Liang Zhe's whole face turned dark. He put his hands on my shoulders and asked through gritted teeth, "Do you want to fall in love?" I was too scared to answer with red eyes, but later, Liang Zhe started chasing me, secretly, in the spring festival when I was 18. Liang Zhe and I got together secretly, naturally. To the outside world, we were still in the relationship of uncle and niece. Behind closed doors, we sank into love soberly. It was so easy to fall in love with Liang Zhe. That year, for my New Year's wish, Liang Zhe promised me, when he took power, when he had the ability to block all the gossip for me, he would make our relationship public and tell the whole world. Liang Zhe likes Jiang Rujia, but later, all the hardships I endured were brought to me by him. Jie, why did you get up so early today? Liang Zhe's gentle voice pulled me back from my memories. He looked at me, and his beautiful peach blossom eyes were filled with deep affection. He had just come out of the kitchen. The fragrance of the cooked porridge had already wafted out. As Liang Zhe put down the sleeves he had rolled up, he walked up to me and habitually pulled me into his arms, with his chin resting on my shoulder. "Something urgent came up at the company yesterday, and I missed our Jiejia's birthday, so I got up early to cook porridge for Jiejia as an apology. I'll rearrange the best restaurant and celebrate with Jiejia again in a few days. Is that okay?" He whispered in my ear. His voice was so beautiful. In bed, he was also so gentle and tender, worrying that I would be in pain and afraid that I would cry. He treated me like a delicate doll, afraid that if he used too much force, I would break. So, in the past 4 years, he had never truly been satisfied, so, in the corners I didn't know about, he vented his sexual desires on another person, wildly and horribly. I always remember, on the day I exposed Liang Zhe's true face, He was sitting in the booth of the bar, smiling casually, his slender fingers held a cigarette, and the tip was still glowing red. His gaze fell on Qin Xia. He pressed the cigarette but hard on her thigh. She let out a cry of pain, but her eyes were filled with lust. I took a step back in shock, but Liang Zhe still smiled and said softly, "I'm really unlucky. Jie found out. I pretended for 12 years, and now it's all back to square one." He walked closer to me. He said that he loved me the most and only me. Qin Xia was just a worthless thing and wouldn't become an obstacle between us. He said, "Rujia, sex and love can be separated." He couldn't bear to do those dirty things to me. But the evil factors were screaming, and he couldn't control it, so he gave his sexual desires to Qin Xia. Qin Xia was a sex addiction sufferer. They took what they needed from each other. I didn't want to listen and couldn't accept it. I smashed all the wine bottles on the table like a madman. Liang Zhe just stood aside and let me vent, until I was tired and sat down in a daze. Liang Zhe took out a tissue and gently wiped the tears on my face with pity in his eyes. He said, "Jie, what else are you not satisfied with? My heart is all yours. We shouldn't be too greedy, should we?" That night, I exposed the fact that Liang Zhe had cheated on me during our relationship. I knew I couldn't touch Liang Zhe, but even if I became infamous, I wanted to drag him down with me. But I never thought that he would ask the doctor to issue a certificate stating that I had delusional disorder. He said that he and Qin Xia were in a legitimate boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. He said that he didn't measure his actions properly and gave me room for fantasy. Overnight, Liang Zhe was cleared of all blame, and I was sent to a mental hospital as a mentally ill person. I underwent 3 months of hypnosis and electroshock therapy. I even doubted myself, that I was really sick, but no. After the commotion died down, Liang Zhe secretly took me out of the mental hospital and imprisoned me in this Xiangshan villa. He asked me, "Jie, have you learned your lesson?" Only then did I know that those days were just a small punishment he gave me, a punishment for being disobedient. 5. Seeing that I didn't speak for a long time, Liang Zhe smiled helplessly. "It seems that Jie is still angry. What should I do then? How about letting Jie beat me up to let off some steam?" I just saw Qin Xia. Upon hearing this, a trace of displeasure flashed in Liang Zhe's eyes, but he quickly hid it. His beautiful fingers played with my hair. "The company has a project recently, and the research direction is related to sex addiction. Qin Xia is one of the experimental subjects. We worked through the night last night, and she wasn't in a good state. She sent me back." He said it casually. I couldn't help but smile mockingly, but in the end, I just replied with an The next second, Liang Zhe's private phone rang inappropriately. As expected, it should be Qin Xia, but he didn't seem to care. After calmly rejecting the call, he smiled and was about to lead me downstairs when holding my hand. The phone rang again, over and over. Liang Zhe frowned, his face darkened slightly, and he was obviously a bit impatient. Finally, he used the excuse of serving me porridge and entered the kitchen to answer the phone. It was noisy on the other side, but I could still vaguely hear, "Qin Xia, can Liang Zhe satisfy your strong sex addiction? Why don't we play together, Mr. Liang? Save me. You want Liang Zhe to save you? Are you crazy, Qin Xia? He's accompanying his little princess right now. No, please, don't." Qin Xia's humble cries for help and screams came out of the receiver. Immediately after, Liang Zhe clenched his fist and smashed it on the countertop with a bang. He hung up the phone, and his expression was extremely ugly. He might not like Qin Xia that much, but his possessiveness and control are stronger than anyone else's. He will never allow others to covet what belongs to him, even if it's just a plaything. I quietly walked from outside the kitchen to the dining table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. When Liang Zhe came out of the kitchen with the porridge, he suppressed his emotions and had a smile on his face. "Jie, you can have your breakfast first. There's something at the company that I need to deal with. I'll be back soon." As he said that, he gently rubbed my head. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, I stopped him. "Uncle, when I was 18, you promised me that we would make our relationship public and get the marriage certificate when I was 22. Were you lying to me?" I smiled at him, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Every day after I was imprisoned in this Xiangshan villa in my previous life, I kept asking myself that if I hadn't discovered Liang Zhe's dirty side, would we have lived our whole lives like an ordinary couple, treating each other with respect? Liang Zhe was slightly stunned, but in the end, he still didn't give me an answer. Qin Xia called again. He left a sentence. don't think too much, pretending to be calm, and then picked up his coat and left. I lowered my eyes and stared at the bowl of porridge in front of me, which was still steaming. I couldn't help but smile mockingly. How could there be someone who could separate sex and love so clearly? Not long after, Qin Xia sent me another message. Jiang Rujia, you see, Liang Zhe still chose me. You and Liang Zhe are not the same kind of people. You should be grateful that I let you see his true face. If I had understood this earlier in my previous life, why did I have to get entangled with such a bad person? Fortunately, it's not too late in this life. The reminder for the plane ticket that Lin Guannan booked for me also popped up. It was a ticket to the United States in 3 days. 6. When Liang Zhe arrived at the nightclub, Qin Xia was being pressed down on the bar table by 2 men. Her skirt was torn open with a large hole, and she would expose herself if she wasn't careful. When she looked at Liang Zhe with tears in her eyes, he just sneered. Her clumsy trick was seen through by him at a glance. Liang Zhe hooked his finger. Immediately, a row of bodyguards appeared behind him. The 2 men quickly let go of the hands that were holding Qin Xia down and swallowed nervously. Everyone in Beijing knew the reputation of Liang Zhe. He was ruthless and cruel in his methods. Mr. Liang, we were just joking with Miss Qin. The man's legs were shaking with fear. Liang Zhe gave a low laugh. Just a joke. The 2 men nodded repeatedly, afraid that if they were a second slower, they would die a horrible death. Qin Xia's eyes were red at the corners, and she looked at Liang Zhe helplessly. Mr. Liang, save me. Sure. Liang Zhe put his index finger to his lips. The bodyguards behind him immediately understood and pulled the 2 men into the next room, ignoring their pleas for mercy, until the heart-rending voices came from the next room. It was Miss Qin who told us to do this. She paid us. Mr. Liang. We were wrong and we won't dare to do it again. Mr. Liang, Liang Zhe still stood there towering over them. When he looked down at Qin Xia with a disdainful gaze, her face was already deathly pale, and her thin body was shaking uncontrollably. Mr. Liang, I didn't, she said in a trembling voice. Qin Xia, I warned you, don't play such useless tricks on me. He sneered and curled his lips. His well-defined fingers took out the phone from Qin Xia's bag, after opening it with ease. When he saw the messages Qin Xia sent to Jiang Rujia, his expression turned gloomy, and an extremely dangerous storm brewed in his deep black eyes like ink. No wonder he always felt that Jiang Rujia's mood was a bit abnormal today. No wonder Jiang Rujia suddenly asked him that question when he was leaving home. He loved Jiang Rujia, so he gave her his heart and his best side. He was afraid that Jiang Rujia would know about his disgusting sexual perversions and his promiscuous past, so he was extremely cautious and walked on thin ice. Pretending for 12 years, he was already preparing to propose to Jiang Rujia. He had already paved all the roads for their future, and even the ring and wedding dress he designed with his own hands were almost finished. Now, Qin Xia had ruined all of this. The atmosphere in the private room was oppressive. When Qin Xia tried to get closer to Liang Zhe, he grabbed her neck tightly with one hand, his eyes bloodshot. Qin Xia, you really deserve to die. Liang Zhe's strength was great. Qin Xia's face turned red from being choked, and she mumbled words of. She begged Liang Zhe to spare her, with tears in her eyes and a sobbing voice. Mr. Liang, I was too greedy, I wanted more, I was wrong, I will explain it to Miss Fong. I will tell her that I hired people to stage all of this on my own. Mr. Liang, please, spare me. After a long time, when Qin Xia was almost out of breath and on the verge of suffocation, Liang Zhe slowly released his hand in satisfaction, threw her onto the sofa beside him, and then loosened his tie. This is your last chance, don't let me find out that you provoke Rujia again. After saying that, he pinched Qin Xia's face with one hand and tore open her top with the other, like a wild beast releasing its nature. He took what he wanted without caring about the life or death of the person beneath him. 7. As soon as I arrived at the laboratory, I saw Lin Guannan. He was wearing a white work uniform and standing in front of the experimental equipment, recording the data. He was my senior brother, 2 years older than me. He was a well-known cold and aloof campus heartthrob in the school. He came from a scholarly family, and he received a full scholarship every year. During his 2 years of postgraduate study, 3 of his papers were published in top SCI journals, and he was considered an outstanding figure in the field of biology. After Lin Guannan finished recording the data and looked up to see me, he was slightly taken aback. After pushing his gold-rimmed glasses, he finished dealing with the final work before walking up to me. "You're early." "It's not early, the time is just right." At 8 o'clock in the evening, the tutor booked a place in a restaurant in Beijing and organized a gathering specifically to see me and Lin Guannan off. A month ago, a biological research project was launched in the United States. With a total of 2 places available, it was certain that Lin Guannan would participate, but the remaining place hadn't been decided for a long time, and the application I submitted hadn't been approved either. Until yesterday, Lin Guannan waited for me outside the restaurant all night. Then I knew that the place was for me. However, it was rejected by Liang Zhe. He intercepted my application, and the tutor didn't receive it, and for the email messages that the tutor originally sent to me. Liang Zhe replied on my behalf. When Lin Guannan showed me the screenshots, I was almost stunned in place in shock. "Teacher, I'm sorry. I'm very happy to have your support, but I'm sorry that I can't go to the United States. I'm going to get married to my boyfriend after graduation, so I may not be able to spend time in the laboratory." The tutor sent a long message to persuade me. He hoped that I could think clearly and that there was no need to give up my ideals for marriage. Liang Zhe still replied, "Teacher, thank you for the opportunity, but I love my boyfriend very much." After reading it, I was filled with anger and wished I could strangle Liang Zhe. What right did he have to decide my future for me? If it wasn't for Lin Guannan's appreciation of my talent, who was half a teacher to me, he wouldn't have gone to great lengths to find me. Lin Guannan also wanted to know an answer. He knew that I could stay up all night for accurate experimental data, and that I could search through all the data in the library day and night to publish a paper in a top journal, and even got locked in the library by mistake for a whole night, so he didn't believe it, that I would reject participating in this project that could enhance my self-worth for the so-called marriage. What's more, the project wasn't indefinite. In my previous life, Lin Guannan had also looked for me, but at that time, I was immersed in the pain of being betrayed by Liang Zhe and turned a blind eye. Fortunately, I didn't miss it this time. 8. What I didn't expect was that I would meet Liang Zhe and Qin Xia in the restaurant. When she was arm in arm with Liang Zhe and walking towards us, I was still walking and discussing the experiment he did just now with Lin Guannan, with a smile on my face. When we mentioned the complex data, Lin Guannan frowned, when I couldn't help but raise my hand to tease him a bit. Liang Zhe's gentle voice came, "Jie." Suddenly, I stopped in my tracks and looked up to meet Liang Zhe's eyes, which were filled with complex emotions. There was a momentary silence. Qin Xia quietly withdrew her hand and took a step back silently, maintaining a safe distance from Liang Zhe. However, the strangulation mark on her neck was particularly obvious, as if someone had strangled her neck with something. After a long confrontation, Liang Zhe was the first to break the silence. He took a few steps and walked up to me. When he was about to gently tuck the hair scattered in front of my ear behind my ear in an affectionate gesture, I couldn't help but take a small step back. His hand stopped in midair, and a moment of surprise flashed in his eyes, but soon he put on a casual smile again. "You're having a meal with your classmates, why didn't you tell your uncle?" I replied calmly. "I was afraid of affecting uncle's work." Liang Zhe smiled softly, and his inquiring gaze fell on Lin Guannan beside me. "Jie, there are a lot of people with ill intentions outside, you have to keep your eyes open, don't be so naive as to be deceived." Lin Guannan curled his lips and sneered. Both the Liang family and the Lin family used to live in the same compound, they often saw each other. According to seniority, Lin Guannan should call Liang Zhe uncle, but he was never afraid of Liang Zhe. The backgrounds of the two were evenly matched. "Rujia, I'll give you the same advice. There are always some crazy people in this world who like to try to control you and possess you in the name of doing what's good for you. So, don't trust anyone easily, don't trust anyone, no matter how close the relationship is. What do you think, Mr. Liang?" As Lin Guannan spoke, he looked directly into Liang Zhe's eyes without hesitation. The smile on Liang Zhe's lips disappeared instantly, and his expression turned gloomy. In the past, because I loved Liang Zhe, I regarded all this control and possessiveness as the affection between lovers, and I even enjoyed it. Because of this, I could be very sure that Liang Zhe loved me too. In this way, he wouldn't cheat and wouldn't become another version of my father. But I never expected that, in Liang Zhe's eyes, extreme love and crazy lust could be completely separated. Finally, the tutor arrived. The two people who were at loggerheads finally suppressed their emotions. Liang Zhe insisted on having the meal with us. Lin Guannan didn't refuse either, but everyone was sensible enough to keep silent about the fact that this meal was a farewell dinner. 9. The reason why Liangze secretly rejected the place for me was very simple. The Liang family's status was deeply rooted, their grandparents were all high-ranking government officials, and their entry and exit were strictly regulated. As long as I went abroad, he couldn't continue to treat me like a caged bird in Beijing and control me in the name of love. This meal was eaten in a oppressive atmosphere. Liangze regarded the others as air. His slender and beautiful fingers slowly peeled the shrimps and picked the crabs for me. His actions were considerate and gentle. Some classmates whispered, "It's true that Mr. Liang treats Jiang Rujia like a little princess as rumored." I thought it was all just rumors. Upon hearing this, the gloom on Liangze's face finally dissipated a bit, and the corners of his lips curled slightly. He put the peeled shrimp into my bowl again. Lin Guanan raised his eyes and glanced at me with a calm expression. I felt a sense of pressure. Finally, I made an excuse to go to the bathroom. I just wanted to get some fresh air. But as soon as I went in, Qin Xia followed. She quietly locked the door of the bathroom. When I heard the sound and turned my head, before I could react, Qin Xia slapped me hard, and then pulled my hair back. I was forced to tilt my head back in pain, and tears welled up in my eyes instantly. Qin Xia, are you crazy? Qin Xia's emotions were obviously agitated. She roared at me with her eyes wide open. I am crazy, Jiang Rujia. I don't understand. Even though Liangze is like this, why don't you leave him? Why are you still lingering around? Why? Do you know that he had sex with me again today? He said he likes having sex with me. Do you know that only I can satisfy him? And you, what can you bring to him? Her voice suddenly rose sharply, and her eyes were filled with unwillingness and resentment. When I first met Qin Xia, she wasn't like this. She was a child from the mountains and a student my mother sponsored before her death. After my mother passed away, I never let the sponsorship for her stop. At the freshman orientation of the university, she recognized me. At that time, she was sunny and bright, and she was the top student and the most beautiful girl in the acting department of Peking University. In her sophomore year, she was invited by a film director to join a film crew, but it was from that time on, Qin Xia changed. In my previous life, Qin Xia also kept provoking me like this. Later, I found out the director didn't invite her to the crew but gave her to Liangze. Since then, she became Liangze's exclusive plaything. At first, Qin Xia resisted, but gradually, she was also attracted by the luxurious and indulgent life. As long as she could make Liangze happy, with a wave of Liangze's hand, the money he gave her was more than she could earn in a lifetime of hard work. Qin Xia indulged in it. Her desires grew bigger and bigger. She delusionally wanted to replace me and naively hoped to become Liangze's wife, but Liangze, in his heart, he always only cared about me. What does your business have to do with me? Can you not drag me into your disgusting affairs? I frowned and tried to break free from Qin Xia's hand. She suddenly gave a hard shake and pushed me again. Has nothing to do with you, Jiang Rujia. Liangze likes you. He's going to marry you. Do you know that? I'm about to lose Liangze. My lower back directly hit the sink, and I couldn't help but groan in pain. Qin Xia, do you like being someone's dog so much? Qin Xia was stunned for a moment, and then she curled her lips mockingly. But it's Liangze, Jiang Rujia, we're different. Without Liangze, you can still stand at the top of the pyramid, but without Liangze, I'm just an ant that anyone can step on. As she spoke, a touch of sadness slowly appeared in her eyes. So, Jiang Rujia, give Liangze to me, okay? Qin Xia's eyes suddenly turned red and were gradually filled with tears. Big, crystal-clear tears rolled down her distorted cheeks. The next moment, she lost control of her emotions and knelt heavily on the ground. Miss Jiang, I'm begging you, I can't live without Liangze, please. I pursed my lips and furrowed my brows. Just as I was about to speak, Qin Xia seemed to hear the hurried footsteps outside. She raised her hand and slapped herself hard again and again. Miss Jiang, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to destroy your relationship with Mr. Liang. I was possessed by evil. I hired people to fake those videos and photos. Miss Jiang, can you forgive me this time? I won't dare to do it again. Suddenly, I stood there in a daze. The door of the bathroom was kicked open. It was Liangze. He quickly walked up to me and completely ignored Qin Xia, who was kneeling on the ground and crying. When he saw the red mark on my left face, his brows suddenly furrowed tightly. His eyes were full of worry. Stay away from her in the future. When Qin Xia has an attack, her emotions will be unstable and she's prone to anger. I'm afraid you'll get accidentally hurt." I looked up at Liang Zhe. At the moment our eyes met, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. Liang Zhe's act was too real. If Qin Xia hadn't gone crazy first, I would almost be unable to tell what was real and what was fake at this moment. I just wanted to leave Beijing and Liang Zhe as soon as possible. 10. In the following 2 days, Liang Zhe almost spent all his time with me, as if he was making up for his absence on my birthday. It seemed that he was also planning something. I didn't deliberately show any dissatisfaction either. I accepted all the kindness he showed me. Maybe I was too well behaved. Liang Zhe seemed to sense a vague uneasiness. He often woke up from nightmares at night, and then he would always gently hold me in his arms and murmur in my ear, "Jie, you won't leave me, right? Everyone who approaches me has a purpose. Only Jie truly cares about me, right? Jie, I only have you. I love you the most. Let's be together forever, okay?" I pretended to be still asleep and didn't respond. Liang Zhe held me even tighter. With a sick and paranoid voice, he said, "Jie, I love you. I would even die as long as you're happy, but you can't stop loving me." I can't understand Liang Zhe. If he really loved me, how could he have allowed me to bear the infamous reputation of falling in love with my uncle and being shameless in my previous life? How could he have been willing to send me to a mental hospital to be tortured? He said he loved me in a high-sounding manner. In fact, the only person he loves is himself. Soon, the third day arrived. There were still 5 hours until the flight to the United States. Lin Guanan sent me a message. "Do you need me to pick you up?" I stood at the corner of the second floor and looked down. Liang Zhe was coming out of the study and planning to go out. In the past 2 days, he had been suppressing his desires, afraid of scaring me. Every time, he only stopped at a kiss, just tasting it slightly, not having been fully satisfied and released with me. His emotions gradually became irritable. When he looked up and saw me, his hand that was putting on the windbreaker stopped. He curved his lips and smiled. "Just like every time in the past, I'm going to the company and will be back soon. I'll make the braised fish that Jie likes for dinner tonight, okay?" His voice was gentle and pleasant. Unfortunately, it was another complete lie. After that day, Qin Xia still kept harassing me, sending all kinds of intimate photos of her and Liang Zhe, some of which were extremely explicit. Her white and tender body was almost covered with crisscrossing whip marks. At first, she just provoked me as usual. Later, she started going crazy and humbly begging, "Jiang Rujia, I'm begging you. I can't live without Liang Zhe. Liang Zhe hasn't come to see me for 2 days. I can give up everything, but I can't live without Liang Zhe. I'll die without him. I'm having an attack. Rujia, I'm begging you. I only want to be with Liang Zhe, just Liang Zhe, please." But just now, her provocative message came again, "Jiang Rujia, look, it's only been 2 days. As long as I crook my finger, Liang Zhe can't resist. He and I are the most suitable for each other." Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, Liang Zhe slightly frowned. Just as he was about to walk towards me, I calmly raised the corners of my lips. "Okay, uncle." Liang Zhe smiled indulgently and helplessly, stopping in his tracks. "Jie has been quite fond of calling me uncle these 2 days. You weren't willing to before." I replied indifferently, "People always change, uncle will change, and so will I." Suddenly, Liang Zhe was stunned, and his eyes were filled with complex emotions. His thin lips opened and closed, as if he was about to say something, but I spoke first. "No matter how we change, I'm still me, and uncle is still uncle, right?" After saying that, I smiled and looked at Liang Zhe. Liang Zhe sighed, "Jie is still so naughty. Stop talking tongue twisters, go back to your room and rest for a while. I'll be back soon. Goodbye, uncle." I still smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. The moment the villa door closed, my smile faded. "Liang Zhe, I hope we never see each other again." 11. On the way out of the Xiangshan villa, the uneasiness in Liang Zhe's heart became more and more obvious. In the past 2 days, although Jiang Rujia was by his side, he could still vaguely feel that there was something between them. Finally, he sent a message to his assistant. "Check all the people and things that Rujia has come into contact with during this period." When he arrived at the nightclub, Qin Xia was wearing a revealing bunny girl outfit, kneeling on the ground with a blushing face, waiting for him. Her eyes were filled with explicit desire. She was almost driven crazy by her sex addiction. She had thought about solving it by herself and even considered finding another man, but she didn't do it. She was afraid that if she got dirty, Liang Zhe would really abandon her completely, Mr. Liang. When Qin Xia saw Liang Zhe appear, she seemed to have grasped at a straw. Liang Zhe curled his lips and smiled softly. He slowly unbuttoned his clothes, rolled up his sleeves, and then bent down to pinch Qin Xia's chin. Did you hit Rugia in the restaurant last time? His voice was very soft. Upon hearing this, Qin Xia couldn't stop trembling. I didn't. I just explained to Miss Jiang about harassing her. I didn't dare to touch her. The next moment, Liang Zhe directly slapped Qin Xia. With great force, she was knocked to the side, and finger marks immediately appeared on her face. Qin Xia, just because I didn't mention it doesn't mean I don't know. Rugia is my bottom line. After saying that, Qin Xia cried and kept saying that she didn't dare. Liang Zhe grabbed her neck and pressed her onto the bed, violently venting his desires. He was dirty and despicable, but he couldn't taint Jiang Rugia. In his heart, Jiang Rugia was a little princess who should live in an ivory tower and never come into contact with such disgusting things in her life. He also couldn't let her know about his unsightly side. Suddenly, the assistant's phone rang inappropriately. Liang Zhe impatiently pulled himself out of his lust and picked up the phone with one hand. Qin Xia underneath him was still trying to please him and attempting to make him hang up the phone. He curled his lips and smiled. He originally wanted to reject the call, but accidentally slid to the answer button. Qin Xia's undisguised voice sounded at the same time as the assistant's voice. Mr. Liang, Miss Jiang has bought a plane ticket to the United States. Suddenly, Liang Zhe's smile froze on his lips. The assistant continued, in 10 minutes, Miss Jiang's flight will take off. Accompanying her is also the eldest son of the Lin family, Lin Guannan. As the assistant finished speaking the last word, Liang Zhe's eyes turned blood red. He kicked Qin Xia away like a madman. Stop Rugia immediately, otherwise, I'll make all of you die. The assistant quickly agreed, and the phone call was hung up. His mind could hardly think, and he was on the verge of collapse. All he could think of were Jiang Rugia's smiling eyes this morning. No wonder he always had a sense of being distant. It turned out that his Jejia had been planning to leave him. How could she? How dare she? Just thinking that he would lose Jiang Rugia in the future, his heart felt as if it was being gripped by a big hand, and a dull pain came over him. Qin Xia was frightened by Liang Zhe, but she still summoned up the courage to move closer to him and said coquettishly, Mr. Liang, you still have me. I will never leave you. She wanted to pull Liang Zhe back into depravity. Liang Zhe's eyes were cold. The assistant then sent him all the details of Jiang Rugia's itinerary in the past few days, including what happened in the restaurant that day. That day, the waiter had diarrhea. After hearing the commotion outside, he secretly recorded the conversation. When Qin Xia's voice came from Liang Zhe's phone, she was immediately stunned, as if her soul had been taken away. Do you know that he had sex with me again today? He said he likes having sex with me. Do you know that only I can satisfy him? Liang Zhe played this sentence repeatedly. At the same time, he received a timed email from Jiang Rugia, naked photos, and provocative words. Liang Zhe completely lost his mind. The pain in his heart burned like a fire. All his hard work in pretending vanished in an instant, and all his hopes and beauty turned into nothing. Qin Xia still wanted to explain. It's not, Mr. Liang, it's not me. Liang Zhe supported his forehead and smiled bitterly, his body full of hostility. Do you know that by tomorrow night at the latest, the ring I designed myself can be put on Rugia's finger? Do you know that the castle I designed and built will be completed next week? Do you know how long I've been preparing to propose to Rugia? He was so angry that his whole body was shaking. On the day he and Jiang Rugia confirmed their relationship when he was 18, he started preparing and planning. He had been waiting for the right moment. He didn't deliberately stand Jiang Rugia up on her birthday. He just wanted to give her a bigger surprise, but unexpectedly, he underestimated Qin Xia and the jealousy of women. Qin Xia, now that Rugia is gone, do you think you can take her place? Do you think you're worthy? Liang Zhe kicked Qin Xia again. This time, it hit her chest directly, and she vomited a mouthful of blood. He glanced at her in disgust, and then left directly. Qin Xia still wanted to chase after him, but was firmly held down by the bodyguards. 1 second before boarding the plane, I was informed that there was a problem with my visa and was taken to the VIP lounge. When Liang Zhe's assistant saw me, he heaved a big sigh of relief. The back of his shirt was soaked with sweat. It seemed that he had put in a lot of effort to stop me within 10 minutes. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. Lin Guannan had applied for a flight route in advance, And my original intention wasn't to take this flight that had already taken off either, Miss Jiang, even if you and Mr. Liang had a quarrel. You can't just leave like this. I gave a low laugh. Looking at his embarrassed expression, I said, you've been with Mr. Liang for 10 years and know what kind of person he is, but I think you should also know what kind of person I am. When Liang Zhe did these things behind my back, he should have expected the outcome between us. I'm not making a scene, I just want to leave him. Is that so difficult? The assistant paused for a moment but then quickly said, Mr. Liang loves you very much, he loves himself. Jia, how can you doubt my love for you? Liang Zhe arrived very quickly. When I turned around to look at him, his face was pale, his hair was messy, and he hadn't even had time to fasten the buttons of his shirt. Mr. Liang, who was always calm, steady, and unruly, today, he was really out of sorts. He walked quickly towards me. I subconsciously took a step back. He immediately stopped at a distance, his eyes full of hurt. Jia, I know you can't accept what I've done, but I love you. From beginning to end, the only person I love is you. Trust me this one time, okay? He begged humbly, but it somehow brought back the memories of my previous life. At that time, after I exposed him, he was still arrogant, because he knew in his heart that as long as I was still making a fuss, it meant I loved him, so he was unscrupulous, and now he has realized that he is about to lose me, so he is starting to panic. No, Jia, you said you would love me forever and never leave me. Were you lying to me? Liang Zhe asked me again, hoping to play on our past relationship, but he didn't know that all of this had long been consumed along with the past. I curved my lips and smiled. It was Uncle who lied to me first, wasn't it? With one action and the corresponding reaction. We're even now. As the last syllable fell, Lin Guannan called me. I responded, just as I was about to walk past Liang Zhe. He held my arm tightly. Jia, you can't leave, and you won't be able to leave either. I'm in charge here. Lin Guannan at the door gave a sneer. His tone was calm but full of the imposing manner of a superior. Mr. Liang, you're not in charge here. He came over and took my hand. When our fingers intertwined, Liang Zhe clenched his fists, and the veins on his hands bulged. Lin Guannan still smiled. Mr. Liang, you'd better think about how to face the reporters outside. After all, you're quite famous now. You're probably the first one to play with your lover to death. 13. Liang Zhe still wanted to chase after me, but he was surrounded by a group of reporters. He looked at Jiang Rujia's back unwillingly, pushing through the crowd, and the light in his eyes gradually faded. Instead, there was a dead silence and emptiness. Suddenly, a string of memories that both belonged and didn't belong to him rushed in. The pictures overlapped, and the past life and this life were completely different. In the memory, after Jiang Rujia found out about his affair with Qin Xia, he let the mistake stand and frankly admitted everything. Jiang Rujia couldn't accept it and made a scene like a crazy person, but she was so silly. How could she possibly bring him down on her own? With just a few words and actions from him, everything was resolved. He wanted to use hypnosis to make Jiang Rujia approve of him, but when he saw her suffering, he felt extremely distressed. So, he brought Jiang Rujia back to the Xiangshan villa after only 3 months. He told her again and again, sex and love can be separated. I love you, so I can't bear to do such bad things to you, but I'm also human. I have desires and cravings. Jia, can you have some pity on me? Stop being angry with me. Jia, I know you love me, but if you love me, you should also love everything about me, right? Love my despicableness, love my dirtiness and filth. But Jiang Rujia was like a broken doll. All the light had disappeared from her eyes. He started to panic. He could lose everything, but he couldn't lose Jiang Rujia. He tried his best to be good to Jiang Rujia, trying to go back to the past. He even hated Qin Xia and made decisions on his own. If nothing had happened, he would have married Jiang Rujia happily, had their own children, and they would have grown old together. But he didn't expect that Jiang Rujia would lock herself in the room and set the villa on fire. When he found out, he rushed into the sea of fire like a madman, ignoring all the obstacles. The burning flames scalded his skin, but he didn't care at all. He only wanted to find Jiang Rujia, but at that time, she had already stopped breathing. Regret and guilt intertwined in his heart, and he was in so much pain that he could hardly breathe. In the end, he also committed suicide in the sea of fire. When he came back to his senses, Liang Zhe let out a painful growl. Like a desperate beast, he pushed through the crowd, stumbling and rushing towards Jiang Rujia's direction with all his might. but in the end, he didn't catch anything, only an illusion. Jiang Rujia was gone, she completely abandoned him, whether in the previous life or this life, he had been abandoned by Jiang Rujia. Obviously, they had agreed to be together forever, he cried hoarsely. Without any dignity, like a child who had made a mistake, he repeated over and over again, forgive me, forgive me. 14 inches. The third month after arriving in the United States, I have gradually adapted to the life here. I shuttle between the dormitory and the laboratory every day and am no longer confined by love and affection. Lin Guanan and I are now friends, confidants, and the best partners. The ideals that were not realized in my previous life have finally been fulfilled in this life. Later, I heard news about Liang Zhe. It was half a year later, Lin Guanan told me about it. When Liang Zhe was originally going to be imprisoned for kicking Qin Xia to death, the Liang family produced his medical records indicating mental illness, so he was sent to a mental hospital instead. At first, Lin Guanan thought Liang Zhe was pretending. Unexpectedly, Liang Zhe was truly crazy. He holds a doll every day, changes its clothes for it, and gently combs and braids its hair. He likes to hold the doll when he sleeps and sometimes stares at it and cries. Every night, he always says affectionately to the doll, I love you, Jia. I will only love you forever and ever. You don't have to love everything about me. I can change for you. Coming back with him was also Qin Xia, my senior sister. You, don't leave me, don't leave me. The staff are often scared by him when they do the night inspection, and sometimes they avoid him. When I heard this, I was stunned for a moment, but in the end, I didn't say anything. Everyone has their own destiny, and this is the ending he chose for himself. After this incident happened in the Liang family, although there wasn't much impact on their interests, their reputation was inevitably damaged, so, they completely removed Liang Zhe from the family register and drove him out of the Liang family. Liang Zhe is now in a mental hospital. He is all alone and helpless. The rest of his life will probably be like this. Story 2. Throughout her life, Fengyu regarded me as her arch-nemesis. After every exam, she would always ask about my scores first. If I scored a few points higher than her, she would curse under her breath. When she heard that I was dating Lu Shichuan, she secretly confessed to him, but after being rejected, she flew into a rage. Later, we attended different universities, and I thought I had finally escaped from her. However, when she learned about my successful startup, she decided to mimic me and start her own business, only to quickly go bankrupt. She blamed all her failures on me, ambushed me outside my home, and stabbed me multiple times. Reborn. Back to our first year of high school, she swore that this time around, she would live a better life than me. To my surprise, her strategy involved copying everything I did in my past life. It seems she never heard the story of Dongsher trying to mimic Shisher's frown. 01. Reborn. Back to our first year of high school, the teacher I disliked the most in my previous life, bald teacher Li, began the class by trying to put everyone in their place. Don't think just because you did well in the middle school exams, you'll do well in the college entrance exams, especially the girls, who tend to falter in physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Many just can't grasp it no matter how hard they study. Fengyu raised her hand high without waiting for Teacher Li to call on her and walked up to the podium. Teacher, what you said is incorrect. You claim that girls lack stamina in physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Do you have any evidence? Teacher Li tapped on his desk. I've been teaching for over a decade, and my experience is the evidence, Fengyu countered. Teacher Li, taking our school as an example, the recent graduates from the third year had girls scoring on average 0.2 points higher than boys in mathematics upon entry, and 0.5 points higher in the college entrance exams, showing an even more distinct advantage. Over the past 5 years, girls have outscored boys in the science comprehensive tests in 3 of those years, and in 4 years, the top science student in the college entrance exams was a girl. From the data, girls are not lacking in stamina. Wouldn't you say your experience is somewhat biased? Fengyu stood straight, her gaze piercing as she looked at Teacher Li. Sunlight streamed in from the window, converging upon her. Both the boys and girls in the class began to applaud her. Teacher Li stood awkwardly in place. And after a moment, he said, "You're Fengyu, right? Well then, study hard these next few years, and I'll be watching. Do you have anything else to say? If not, you may return to your seat." But Fengyu wasn't ready to let the topic drop just like that. Holding her head high, her face a mix of pride and defiance, she challenged, "Teacher Li, if by the time we graduate, the girls score higher than the boys in the college entrance exams? Would you be willing to retract your prejudice against girls and refrain from making such statements in the future, Teacher Lee? And she locked eyes for a few seconds before he averted his gaze and reluctantly agreed with a simple, okay. The whole class cheered for Feng Yu, Lu Shichuan, the esteemed young master of the Jing Circle and my fiancé in the previous life, watched her for a long while. As Feng Yu walked down from the podium, she looked like a triumphant hero. But only she and I knew that in my previous life, all those cheers were for me. 02, Feng Yu said that this time around, she would definitely beat me. Unexpectedly, her strategy to surpass me involved exactly replicating my every move from the previous life. She mimicked how I rebutted Teacher Lee and instantly became a celebrity in the class. She even copied the speech I made in the previous life to run for class president. She started imitating my style from the past as well. I knew she was doing this to catch Lu Shichuan's attention. Feng Yu had harbored a crush on Lu Shichuan for many years, but he always kept people at a distance, claiming he was uninterested in dating. It wasn't until rumors spread about his interest in me that Feng Yu finally mustered the courage to confess to him. But Lu Shichuan rejected her. Unwilling to give up, she asked, "Then what kind of girl do you like?" Lu Shichuan smiled shyly, mushroom haircut, straight bangs, black-rimmed glasses. Someone smart, good at studying, and with a cool personality. That was me. After being reborn, Feng Yu cut off her long ponytail, with her bangs neatly combed into a mushroom cut and black-framed glasses perched on her nose. She actually believed that Lu Shichuan liked me for my fashion sense. After school, only Feng Yu and I were left in the classroom, she said with a smug expression. This afternoon, Lu Shichuan looked at me 17 times. Your fiancé is falling for me. I noticed Lu Shichuan watching her too. At the time, I didn't understand. I thought he liked me in his past life because of who I was, not realizing it was the mushroom cut and black-framed glasses that caught his attention. But something felt off. In the past life, his feelings for me didn't develop this quickly. When we first started high school, Lu Shichuan just thought I was a show-off. Coming from a conservative family, he was taught to be modest and unassuming. Never to boast about goals before achieving them, unlike me, who boldly declared upon enrollment, "I will top the monthly exam to show Mrs. Lee the strength of a leading lady." He found me childish and lacking subtlety, even a bit annoying. He invited the whole class to his birthday party, except for me, but I liked him, probably what they call a physical attraction. I couldn't help but smile foolishly whenever I saw him, wanting to get closer and breathe in his scent, so I confessed my feelings to him. I showed up at his doorstep with a small gift, asking why he hadn't invited me to his birthday party. He didn't expect me to ask such a direct question. Taking advantage of his stunned silence, I tiptoed up and kissed him on the lips. Lu Shichuan, I like you. I've wanted to tell you for a long time. If you end up liking me too, you have to let me know. Of course, he didn't accept my confession, but later, I became obsessed with physics. Pestering a senior who had won a gold medal in a physics competition with questions every day, Lu Shichuan cornered me in the hallway, asking if what I said at his doorstep still stood. But about romantic matters, I didn't think too much. After all, I wasn't reborn to engage in petty romances. After school, I went straight to the hair salon and replaced my mushroom cut with long, black, straight hair. I swapped my glasses for contact lenses. Now, nobody could confuse me with Feng Yu. Unexpectedly, my change in style caused quite a stir at school. Someone posted on the forum, "Did a new transfer student join class 3? I declare her my goddess," along with a picture of me with long hair. The post received countless replies. "So beautiful, I want to be her desk mate. What's her name?" Finally, someone recognized me. "Doesn't she look a lot like Gu Xiangxiang? Did Gu Xiangxiang get hair extensions?" I jumped in to confirm, yes, originally unnoticed in this lifetime, I suddenly became a campus celebrity. The next day, students from the neighboring class gathered at our classroom door, eager to see what I looked like in person. The usually boisterous sports committee member, who had been brotherly to me just yesterday, seemed shy speaking to me today. Even Zhou Quan, the senior who had tutored me in physics competitions last lifetime, lingered his gaze on me for several seconds when delivering materials to our class. Only Lu Shichuan remained indifferent. Whenever he passed by, he would not spare me a glance, as if fearing that looking at me would infect him with a virus. In the school's beauty contest on the forum, I was leading by a large margin, yet, Lu Shichuan commented below, "I think Feng Yu is prettier." The classmates thought the crown prince of the capital was blind. Feng Yu was smug. What's the use of those people liking you? Can they provide you resources when you start a business? She didn't understand. I didn't succeed in business by relying on men, but through solid technical skills and keen market insights. In my past life, I devoted all my energy to studying, living again. I realized that beyond academics, there are so many worthwhile things to do. On weekends, I accompanied my grandfather to the chess stall under the big tree. Watching him win and modestly claim his skills were decent, I finally confronted the swindler who targeted the elderly with health products, directly calling the police. My grandfather had suffered liver failure due to his medicines in the past. I discovered the large bottle of Coke my grandmother had hidden under the bed. She had to throw it away right there and then. Grandma was distressed. That cost over 10 yuan. I scared her, saying, if you get diabetes, insulin injections will cost you thousands every month. Plus, you might get skin ulcers that won't heal properly, and if things get worse, you might even need an amputation. Frightened, she threw away the Coke herself. In my previous life, all those terrifying things I mentioned turned out to be true. During dinner, my mom and dad were discussing, why isn't the stock price rising even though the company's product sales have increased so much? Could there be hidden problems? I immediately recognized that this was the company whose stock had soared 20-fold after my dad sold his shares in my previous life. He had made the right call. He just lacked confidence in his own judgment. I missed out on the chance to become the child of a wealthy family because of that. I asked my dad, why are you so sure it'll go up? My dad went into detail about his research. He had counted the trucks delivering goods at the factory gate and even talked to the security guards about the operational rate. Moreover, the company was in a semi-monopolistic industry, ensuring a margin of profit, logical and well-founded. My mom, an experienced accountant, nodded in agreement repeatedly. Having studied an MBA in my previous life, I found my dad's analysis professionally convincing. I thought for a moment and said to him, you guys own a house and a car and have no debts. Even if you lost all 200,000, it wouldn't really affect our current quality of life, right? Seeing them nod, I persuaded my dad to delete the stock trading app and reinstall it 6 months later, to prevent him from selling the shares secretly. There are so many wealthy heirs in the world, I shouldn't be missing out. 05. The first monthly exam of the 11th grade came quickly. On the day the results were released, Feng Yu ran to ask our class teacher, Teacher, how much did Gu Xiangxiang score overall? Teacher Lin avoided the question, simply stating, Feng Yu, you did very well, you're the top of the grade, and Gu Xiangxiang, that's Gu Xiangxiang's private matter. Unsatisfied, Feng Yu rummaged through my desk for the score sheet. You only ranked 20th in the grade, you've regressed. Determined, she looked at Lu Shichuan, who was entering with a basketball, and told me, Gu Xiangxiang, in this life, I am the smart girl. I didn't expect her obsession with Lu Shichuan to be so deep. In my previous life, when Lu Shichuan rejected her confession, he said he liked smart girls who were good at their studies. After that, Feng Yu began to study day and night. She studied until 1 in the morning, woke up at 5, worked on problems for 2 hours, and then went to school. Her desk was always piled high with tutorial books. She participated in no extracurricular activities, and she would get impatient if someone spoke to her. Everyone thought she was a bit of an oddball. She became more and more reclusive, and Lu Shichuan naturally never paid her any attention. He even stopped inviting her to birthday parties, not wanting to disturb her studies. But Feng Yu never ranked first. Once, when she heard I had topped the grade again, she tore up her test paper in front of everyone and stomped on it. Her classmates thought she was obsessed and dared not get close to her. This time, she finally managed to surpass me, but what she didn't anticipate was that aside from initially saying she was pretty on a forum, Lu Shichuan showed no interest in pursuing her. When she made advances, he distanced himself. During a PE class, the boys were sweating it out on the basketball court. After scoring a three-pointer, Lu Shichuan lifted his shirt to wipe off sweat, revealing his lean waist. The onlooking students whistled. He then realized and quickly pulled down his shirt. Feng Yu squeezed through the crowd to the edge of the court, poking him on the shoulder from behind and handing him a bottle of mineral water. Oh, wow, has brother Lu started dating a girlfriend? So, he's showing off his relationship in public now. The area erupted with playful teasing. Everyone knew that bringing water on the basketball court was a privilege reserved for girlfriends. Feng Yu's face turned crimson. Unexpectedly, Lu Shichuan turned around and coolly told his teammates. Don't talk nonsense. Pointing to the red water bottle at the side, he politely and gently thanked Feng Yu. Thank you, but I brought my own water. I'm not sure if Lu Shichuan likes Feng Yu, but I am sure he doesn't like me. He showed off his strength in our sparring class, nearly injuring me. In my past life, when Feng Yu stabbed at me, I saw her pull out the knife. I could have dodged if I had been quicker, but I wasn't fast enough, nor strong enough. After being reborn, I decided to practice martial arts. I wasn't naturally talented, but I trained exceptionally hard. 2 weeks later, my coach said I had mastered the basic moves and could start sparring with other students. My sparring partner was Lu Shichuan. He seemed startled when he saw me, then his brow furrowed, and he didn't bother to hide his hostility. He fought like he was on a battlefield, putting full force into every punch and kick, holding a shield. I was pushed back by the force of his blows until I hit the wall. Then he struck fiercely again, and I finally lost my balance and fell on the mat behind me. Even the coach couldn't stand it. What are you doing, Lu Shichuan? I asked you to practice the techniques, not to use your physical strength to bully a girl. My arm was cramping, and tears streamed down my face as I cried uncontrollably. If you have a problem with me, Lu Shichuan, just say it. Why are you acting crazy? He looked at me coldly. I won't let you hurt her. I said I just wanted to protect myself. But he didn't believe me. After drying my tears, I realized I had cried out one of my contact lenses. I decided to take the other one out too, put on glasses, and retied my hair. Lu Shichuan froze. He stared at me for several seconds, then couldn't help but ask, Gu Xiangxiang, have we met somewhere before? I took a few days off school and returned to T University to see my mentor from my previous life. When I arrived, Professor Lin was giving a lecture to undergraduates. Waiting at the back of the classroom, I heard her passionate voice echoing in the hallway. At 18 in my last life, I was inspired by her passion and went through a lot of effort to join her research group. Now, she had just received her qualification as a master's advisor, young and promising. Her future was bright. However, since she wasn't yet famous, the school didn't allocate her many resources. After class, I stopped her. Professor Lin, I'd like to join your research group. She rejected me outright. I explained that I was proficient in programming and had self-studied the course, capable of handling research tasks, but she still wasn't interested in letting me join. Miss Gu, it's good to have an interest in research, but this project is only open to undergraduates. I played my trump card. Professor Lin, does your group lack equipment? I can provide funding. Is 1 million enough? In my previous life, the artificial intelligence project she led had started 3 years before I enrolled, but the project was expensive to run, and she had struggled to secure sufficient funding. For the first few years, the project remained in the theoretical phase. It was not until the year I enrolled, when artificial intelligence became a national priority, that she obtained enough funding. This time, money was not an issue. The stocks my father chose increased 20-fold in 6 months. I pulled out the New Year's money I had been saving since childhood and asked him to buy 50,000 for me too. Thus, by the second semester of the first year of high school, I had earned my first million. When I came to do research, Professor Lin was taken aback. Come, write these few programs for me. I want to see your basic skills. During the week I didn't go to school, I was incredibly busy. I woke up at 6 a.m. every day and went straight to T University by subway. I got to know the senior students in the group well, added equipment to the lab, and even attended the first aid training as Professor Lin requested. During this time, Gu Shichuan and Feng Yu sent me countless WeChat messages. Gu Shichuan, Gu Xiangxiang, why aren't you coming to school? Did I hurt you? Can I come to see you? Just reply if you're okay. Gu Xiangxiang, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Feng Yu was agitated. Where did you go? Gu Xiangxiang, where did you go? Why aren't you coming to school? Did your grandfather die again? Reply to me quickly, Feng Yu, and I competed for the top rank in our grade, but I never took it to heart. But her comment about my grandfather crossed the line. It was time to give her a warning. In my previous life, at this time, my grandfather had died from liver damage caused by fraudulent health products. I hadn't gone to school for several days. Feng Yu brazenly barged into the memorial hall. I asked her what she wanted, and she casually waved her hand. I thought you were getting tutored by some famous teacher, but it turns out someone in your family died. That's a relief. Even the neighbor couldn't stand it. How can you speak like that? So disrespectful. Feng Yu turned and left, cursing the old lady. Idiot, looking back, those days must have been the highlight of her previous life. That monthly test was the only time in 3 years of high school that Fengyu scored higher than me. And she took it as proof that her abilities were comparable to mine. In this life, Fengyu once again came to my house. My grandfather was watering the flowers at the door, greeting her with a smile. You must be Xiangxiang's classmate, right? Wait here, I'll call her. My grandfather went inside, leaving us alone. Fengyu squinted her eyes. Heh, this old fool is still alive. I clenched my fists in my pockets. Come with me. You wanted to know where I'd been these past few days, right? I took her to a small alley behind the street. There were no cameras here. Fengyu, today I'll teach you how to speak properly. I grabbed her collar, clenched my fist, and started punching her face. Her blood stained my hands as she began to cry and scream. I pulled out a smelly rag from under the old bicycle seat and stuffed it into her mouth. Wipe your mouth, speak cleaner from now on. Since she kept targeting me, I decided to beat her until she submitted. Her glasses shattered, her nose skewed, her school uniform tore, and clumps of her hair fell out. Tears mixed with the blood flowing from her nostrils, dripping into her mouth. I asked her, Fengyu, will you learn to speak properly? She nodded hurriedly, fear evident in her eyes for the first time. Turns out she was just a bully who feared the tough. I pulled the rag out of her mouth and watched her lean against the wall, violently vomiting. Fengyu, tell me, whose family had someone die? She sobbed and admitted. It's, someone in my family died. Stop hitting me, you're going to kill me. Only then did I realize that the fiercely ruthless Fengyu could have such a cowardly moment. Laughable, it was just a superficial injury. It seems that she had never seen so much blood before, except for the day in her previous life when she killed me. Only when blood flowed from her own body could she feel pain and fear. Behind me, a young voice full of hatred for evil rang out. Weren't you the one who said you wouldn't harm her? It was Lu Shichuan. The fading light of the setting sun shone from behind him. I couldn't make out his expression, only feeling as though lifetimes were between us. After I died in my previous life, my soul drifted for 2 to 3 years. I watched the people who loved me weep for me, wanting to comfort them but powerless to do so. They couldn't hear my voice. I watched as Lu Shichuan's emotions spiraled out of control, and then gradually stabilize. I thought he had finally started a new life. But just when I was relieved, Lu Shichuan went to the riverbank where we had our first date and fell into the river late at night. He was rescued by someone fishing. I thought he would survive, but the doctor declared that he had consumed alcohol and a large amount of antibiotics. He was determined to die. In this life, Lu Shichuan is still a slender young man with the clear eyes of youth. I told him, stop getting involved in the matters between Fengyu and me. It's better for both of us to keep our distance. But how could a 16-year-old boy, who couldn't stand injustice, allow bullying to happen in school? He coldly walked past me, lifted the bloodied Fengyu, and draped his school uniform over her. From that day on, he escorted her to and from school, treating me as a dangerous threat. After that, I rarely went to school. My mother helped me get extended leave from school. I don't know what she told the principal, but the school agreed. I only needed to go to school once a week and take the regular school exams. So, I spent my days between T University and the gym. At this moment, the wave of artificial intelligence was still under the surface, and neither the academic nor business worlds were sure if those grand ideas could become a reality. But the reborn me knew that this wave would surge in a few years. Once the equipment was ready, Professor Lin immediately posted recruitment notices. She was ready to gather her team. But at that time, her fame was limited and the project funds were scarce, attracting few applicants. I went to the undergraduate department of T University and found the members of my previous life's project team, Senior Gu Yen, Senior Jingwen Liang, Senior Qing Hao. I persuaded each one, ensuring they all submitted their applications and were once again selected by Professor Lin. Our project focused on AI industrial robots. Traditional robots could only replace humans in performing predefined repetitive tasks, but they were incapable of troubleshooting or handling unexpected situations on their own. If a screw got stuck, the entire production line would halt, waiting for a worker to solve the problem. But AI robots could think for themselves. They could learn, like humans, to remove a worn-out screw and replace it with a new one. Although we had successfully developed this type of robot in my previous life and I remembered several key technical points, the project progress wasn't as smooth as I imagined. The other members did not have memories of their previous lives, and there were many details in their parts that I was not familiar with. A lot of work had to be started from scratch. I was busy with work in the lab, and Fengyu was not idle either. After being beaten up last time, she was still uneasy, worried that I was secretly working hard without her knowing. She came to track me again. When she saw me, I was buying nails with Senior Gu Yen at the building materials market. Fengyu tentatively asked, "So you've stopped going to school and started working as a contractor?" I nonchalantly nodded, unconvinced. She followed us back to T University, where she was stopped by security. Next to the security booth stood Lu Shichuan. Fengyu evidently hadn't expected me to call him over. She hastily concealed the darkness and malice in her eyes, replacing it with a demure, innocent demeanor. I smiled at Lu Shichuan. "I don't know what's up with Fengyu. After the beating I gave her last time, she still keeps hovering around me. Why don't you keep her in check?" Fengyu's expression was sour. I wonder how she's going to explain this to Lu Shichuan. In the following weeks, Fengyu anxiously kept tabs on my every move. It wasn't until the next monthly exam that she finally eased up on her vigilance. She topped the grade effortlessly, and me, having lived 2 lifetimes, fell out of the top 50 for the first time. I hadn't touched a high school textbook in a month. During class, Teacher Lee from the math department publicly shamed me. Some students aim too high but can't even grasp middle school knowledge. Yet they talk about joining research at University T. Am I right, Gu Xiangxiang? I stuffed my papers into my backpack. "Teacher Lee, the principal approved my leave. If you have any objections, you should take it up with him. I'm leaving now. I still have bugs to fix in the lab." Unexpectedly, Fengyu chased after me as I left the classroom. She asked in astonishment, "You joined that research project from your past life?" Since Teacher Lee had already mentioned it, there was no point in hiding it from her. So I nodded. "Is there any point?" Fengyu asked me. "Lu Shichuan dislikes you so much. Even if your project is excellent, you won't get any investment from Lu's corporation," I casually replied. "Then don't worry about it." Top student. I couldn't be bothered to explain to her that in my past life, Lu's corporation invested in my project not because of Lu Shichuan's personal favor, but because my technological achievements were valuable to their enterprise. Our developed robots could replace workers in dangerous operations, reducing production costs and accidents. Back then, our team received thousands of investment offers from around the world. Everyone wanted a piece of this major technological revolution. Choosing Lu's corporation was simply because I loved Lu Shichuan, nothing more. In the blink of an eye, the project had been going on for over a year. Progress was much faster than in my previous life, but a core problem remained unresolved in my past life. It was Senior Qinghao who had a breakthrough and rewrote a segment of code after a heartbreak, which finally got the model to work. But now, he was 3 years younger than when he joined the project in my previous life and hadn't yet met the girl who would break his heart and drive him to code through the night. That's when I thought of Zhou Quan, my high school senior who coached me in the physics competition and was now a freshman at University T. He was the smartest and most creative person I knew. Maybe he could bring some new progress. Professor Lin took to him instantly, praising the test code he wrote. "He's a true genius. It's rare for University T to produce such talent." Zhou Quan blushed at her compliments. "After my rebirth, I've been so busy. I need to keep up with the research project and my fitness. I know that once my project succeeds and gains social recognition, Fengyu will definitely feel upstaged. She'll become jealous and act against me. This time, I must be capable of protecting myself." Outside the huge floor-to-ceiling windows of the gym, the sky was filled with the glow of dusk, and it was time for school to end. That's when I noticed Lu Shichuan had arrived, standing at the door watching me hit the punching bag. I asked him, "Why didn't you escort Fengyu home from school today?" He replied, "There's a parent-teacher meeting today, and she stayed to share her study experiences." I glanced at my sports watch, feeling the date was familiar, then remembered what happened on this day in my past life. I immediately ran towards the school. "What are you doing?" Lu Shichuan asked, puzzled, as he chased after me. When we reached the school entrance, his anxiety grew, and he quickly stepped in front of me with his long legs. "Are you going back to school to hit someone?" I didn't have time to explain, and breathlessly told him, "Go to the rooftop and find Hu Xueme, don't let her jump off." He paused for a couple of seconds, decided to trust me, and hurried towards the rooftop. During the last parent-teacher meeting, as the top student of the grade, I stayed behind to share my learning experiences. After finishing my speech, I leaned against the corridor wall, waiting for my mom so we could go home together. Suddenly, I heard bald Teacher Lee say, Could the parents of these students please stand up? I saw a few parents hesitantly rise to their feet. Teacher Lee angrily addressed them. Why is it that I teach all these students, yet someone else's child is first in the grade, and your children are at the bottom? Reflect on this. Have you taken responsibility for your child's performance? Have you fulfilled your duties as parents? If your child is not doing well, you need to find a solution. Let's hear it. What are your plans to help improve your child's grades? The parents who stood up were at a loss for words, while those seated were visibly uncomfortable. A tall man in the front row stooped and bowed his head, beginning to apologize softly to Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee arrogantly demanded, I can't hear you, speak up. In the corridor, Hu Xiuemei, who was waiting with me for the meeting to end, was biting her lip, her expression one of despair. That was her father. He was dressed in a worn-out padded jacket, meekly admitting his shortcomings, accepting every insult from Teacher Lee. I told Hu Xiuemei, Teacher Lee is an idiot, just wait, I'm going to confront him. I stormed into the classroom. Perhaps the parents aren't aware, but Teacher Lee hardly teaches during class. He just lets students study on their own while he smokes and makes phone calls in the corridor. After every test, he pressures the students with lower scores to join his tutoring classes outside school, charging 1,000 yuan per hour. Teacher Lee, infuriated, yelled at me, what nonsense are you spouting? Get out. I ignored him and continued, I think the parents really need to consider replacing an irresponsible teacher. Not every parent has the capability to tutor their children, but a teacher does. It's just that Teacher Lee isn't willing to do it for free. Also, Teacher Lee, my good grades have nothing to do with your teaching. I studied on my own. Stop using me as an example. That day, Hu Xiuemei told me that she had already planned to jump off the school rooftop. Her family couldn't afford the tutoring fees. She felt her existence brought endless humiliation to her father. As dusk fell, my heart pounded. The moment I rushed onto the rooftop, I saw Lu Shichuan embracing Hu Xiuemei from behind. Just as she was about to climb over the railing, I yelled to her, don't jump. We're getting a new teacher next week. Your dad said you are his pride. As night fell, the three of us stood there, gasping for breath, tears streaming down our faces in silence. Back in the classroom, the parent-teacher meeting had already ended. Teacher Lee was discussing the prices for his tutoring classes with a few remaining parents. Hu Xiuemei's father looked embarrassed. Teacher, let me think of a solution. It's my fault. I don't want to hold my child back, Teacher Lee impatiently said. If we delay any further, it'll be too late. Later, Hu Xiuemei's father pleaded with Feng Yu, classmate, could you spare some time to share your study tips with Xiuemei? You're so outstanding. Feng Yu responded indifferently, I don't have any tips. But when she saw Lu Shichuan enter the classroom, her attitude changed. She angrily pointed at Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee, do you know that running private tutoring classes is illegal? Under her guidance, Hu Xiuemei's academic performance improved rapidly. Hu Xiuemei's father was so grateful that he not only wrote a letter of commendation to the school but also invited journalists to promote her good deeds. However, this did not resolve the doubts in Lu Shichuan's mind. After school, he came to the Sonda classroom and asked me, how did you know Hu Xiuemei was going to commit suicide? I could have made up an excuse to deceive him, but I suddenly felt that it was pitiful for him to be deceived back and forth by two people who had been reborn, so I decided to tell him the truth. Because I have been reborn, all these things have happened before in my previous life. Actually, Feng Yu has also been reborn. Lu Shichuan stood frozen in place. After a long time, he asked, so, the girl with glasses that has a story with me, that's you, right? Ever since Lu Shichuan was very young, he would inexplicably envision a girl in his mind. She had a mushroom haircut and wore glasses, but her face was unclear. He could not remember the past clearly, but he always felt an inexplicable heartache for her. It was not until his first year of high school when he met Feng Yu that the girl in his mind finally had a face. Lu Shichuan was somewhat disappointed. He didn't feel anything special for her, even though he had previously thought there would be a romantic connection between them. But when Feng Yu claimed that I bullied her, and later he saw me hitting her, he still felt sorry for her. He felt it was his duty to protect her. Why didn't you believe her then? I asked. You had a classmate from the same school since they were kids. That girl scored 2 points higher than Yaya in the middle school exam. But after entering high school, that girl stopped studying and said she wanted to join some research project. At the time, Yaya was really anxious, afraid she couldn't keep up. I told Yaya, don't bother with all those fancy things. A student's main task is to study. And look now, Yaya has been guaranteed admission to T University. That girl only scored about 500 in the recent mock exam, and her project hasn't yielded anything. Fengyu politely tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mom, stop, she'll be upset. The host smiled appreciatively and asked, so Fengyu, what major do you want to study in college, and what do you want to do in the future? Fengyu smiled confidently. I want to study artificial intelligence, to let machines work in place of humans and contribute to the development of the country's emerging industries. The audience erupted in applause. Nobody expected such a grand vision from a high school student. Speaking of which, I really did score just over 500 on the mock exam. I hadn't done high school practice problems in years, and they felt very foreign in the exam room. Luckily, there was progress in my project. One day at 3 in the morning, my phone started buzzing. Qinghao and Zhou Quan were flooding the chat group, saying that they had resolved an issue that had been stuck before. I immediately got out of bed and took a taxi to T University. When I arrived at the laboratory at 4 in the morning, the others were already there. Let's cut to the chase, launch the program and have the robot execute the sorting instructions. This task might be straightforward for humans, but robots can easily mix up items of the same color. Moreover, each time a new type of item is introduced, the robot, lacking previous experience, tends to make frequent mistakes. Ultimately, existing machines struggle to autonomously reason and make decisions like humans, adapting to new situations. But our robot has succeeded. Its mechanical arm deftly sorted and moved dozens of previously unseen items from the basket to designated spots, organizing them meticulously. There were no hesitations, no omissions, no errors. The lab was silent for a few seconds, followed by deafening cheers. We had finally succeeded. T University is a nationally renowned institution with strict access control, making it difficult for ordinary visitors to explore. After Fengyu received her direct admission, she finally had the chance to enter the campus. The first place she visited was our lab. None of us students were there that day. Professor Lin, unaware of the grudge between her and me, treated Fengyu as a potential high school student interested in AI, enthusiastically demonstrating our robot to her. Fengyu, try giving it a few commands and see if it understands you. Fengyu, somewhat surprised, tentatively issued commands. The robot responded by lifting its right arm, feigning a feint, and picking up a crumpled paper from the floor. Fengyu skillfully made conversation. Are robots this smart now? If this were applied in industry, I wonder how much labor could be saved. Professor Lin, unsuspecting, replied, yes, we're already in talks with some factories. Fengyu instantly became alert. She knew that once this achievement gained social recognition, I would be in the spotlight. At that time, her status as a direct admit to T University would seem insignificant. After all, thousands of T University students graduate each year, but only a few succeed in starting their own businesses. She came up with an idea. Professor Lin, could you give me a reading list on artificial intelligence? I'd like to start studying in advance. Professor Lin, appreciative of her initiative, responded. Wait here, I'll go to my office and get it for you. You can play with the robot freely, but don't touch the server next to it. Professor Lin didn't anticipate that as soon as she left, Fengyu would lock the lab door from the inside. At that time, during a short holiday, the other project members were not local. When I hurriedly arrived, Professor Lin had just had someone break the lock. Fengyu was still tampering with the robot, and Professor Lin shouted in panic, "What did you do? Didn't I tell you not to touch that machine?" Ignoring her, Fengyu looked at me triumphantly. Gu Xiangxiang, guess what I've been up to? The robot lay on the ground, unresponsive to my commands to stand up. Upon closer inspection, I saw that Fengyu had dismantled many of its components and smashed its legs. Professor Lin nervously checked the server to find the back-end code completely erased. In just 1 hour, Fengyu had turned our 2 years of hard work into scrap metal. That was our Robot 001, our pride and joy. I burst into tears. Fengyu, if you wanted to do research, you could have just worked hard on your own. Why destroy someone else's work? I never competed with you for the top grades or the direct admission. I've always focused on my research without harming your interests. Why target me? Why delete our code? My distress brought her immense satisfaction, and she smirked. Gu Xiangxiang, I just don't like you. It's no use panicking now. I've completely deleted the code. It can't be recovered anymore, Fengyu declared in the video, her voice echoing in the auditorium. But I've already backed it up for you. I'll gather a few PhD students, form a new team, and publish this technology under my name. Do you think the Liu family would invest in me? Given my relationship with Lu Shichuan, her words disgusted me. I pulled out my phone, intending to call the police. But Feng Yu quickly pulled a knife from her bag and held it against Professor Lin's throat, threatening, "Dare to call the police, I'll kill her if you do." A few days later, our high school held a coming-of-age ceremony for all the senior students. Distinguished alumni, city leaders, and business representatives attended, including Lu Shichuan's father, Feng Yu, representing the outstanding students, spoke at the event, basking in glory. Even the mayor had heard of her helpful deeds and praised her ambition to delve into technology at such a young age, remarking, "Feng Yu, you should exchange notes with another classmate of yours, learn from her experiences." Perhaps not everyone is aware yet, but Gu Xiangxiang, another student, has participated in an artificial intelligence project that has secured a major international deal, promising substantial tax contributions to our city. The principal was both shocked and delighted. But Feng Yu was visibly flustered. She couldn't understand how the deal was signed when she had smashed the robot and deleted all the core codes. During those days, I appeared distracted and lost, which made Feng Yu overly confident, thinking her destructive actions had dealt us a blow that couldn't be mended. But for researchers, backing up data is second nature. We had several spare robots built, and most of our codes were stored in the cloud. The data she stole was just a minor part, which wouldn't even operate properly without the rest. If only she had some technical knowledge, she would have realized this. Feng Yu, lacking in technical understanding, thought she was halfway into the business elite club. Each time she saw me, she mocked, "Worrying won't help you. Why is your professor so foolish? By the time you rewrite the codes, my company will be public. Why not just focus on preparing for your college entrance exams? You haven't practiced for 3 years, getting into any college would be good enough. You'll never catch up to me in this lifetime." She even leaned in, half of her face close to mine, and taunted, "You probably want to hit me, but dare you? I'm now the school's pride. Touch me, and the principal himself will send you to the police station." At the coming-of-age ceremony, the principal realized he had another student to be proud of. The mayor, smiling broadly, gestured to the audience. "Gu Xiangxiang, please come to the podium. Miss Gu is usually very modest. Why don't you introduce your research project to us? How did you and your team develop such an impressive robot?" After my introduction, the mayor looked even more impressed and asked if he could visit our lab. I regretfully informed him that might not be possible right now. Our robot has been maliciously damaged and will take a long time to repair. The mayor's expression turned serious. Who would dare do such a thing? We must strictly hold accountable anyone hindering technological progress. I handed a hard drive to a staff member, asking him to project a video. Feng Yu's face appeared on the large screen. All the students saw Feng Yu violently smash the robot to the ground, breaking its legs, then crudely disassemble its arms with a screwdriver. She threw the disassembled parts out the window from a high floor. As she discarded the parts, she muttered, "Gu Xiangxiang, let's see how proud you can be now." Then she moved to the server, uploaded crucial data to her cloud, deleted the local codes, and formatted the machine. In the school auditorium, everyone witnessed Feng Yu telling me in the lab, "It's useless to worry now. I've deleted the codes, and they can't be recovered, but I've already backed it up for you. Soon, I'll gather a few PhD students, form a new team, and publish this technology under my name. Do you think, given my relationship with Lu Shichuan, the Lu family would invest in me?" "Will the Lu family invest in me?" Feng Yu also said. "Gu Xiangxiang, I just don't like you. You dare to call the police. If you do, I'll stab her." The entire auditorium was in uproar. When Feng Yu was vandalizing, she didn't realize that even if our robots were damaged, their eyes would faithfully record every move of the vandal. Our servers are connected to the internet, and Feng Yu's actions of modifying and stealing code were already logged by the back-end system and synced to the cloud. The video ended. Lu Shichuan's father sternly rebuked Feng Yu. "What is your relationship with Lu Shichuan? Has my Lu family recognized you? When did it become your turn to integrate the resources of my Lu family?" Feng Yu tried to flee to the audience, but was stopped halfway. The mayor, furious, said, "You know you've broken the law, and you still want to run, claiming to devote yourself to technology, yet what you actually did was steal others' achievements. Such a young age and already a con artist in academia. Where is the principal? Did you call the police? You're letting a student who dares to wield a knife get away with it." The principal sincerely admitted his mistake and ordered his staff to call the police immediately. He acknowledged that the school had failed to notice Feng Yu's lack of morals. The school would immediately contact T University to withdraw Feng Yu's recommendation for enrollment. The high school graduation ceremony ended abruptly. The city leaders told me that they would definitely seek justice for me. The development of new productive forces in the country needs excellent teams and technologies like ours. I repeatedly thanked them and invited them to visit our lab soon to meet the other team members. Feng Yu glared at me viciously from the side. Several teachers stood around her, preventing her escape. Everyone just waited for the police to take her away. Her classmates who used to admire her now avoided her like a plague, except for Hu Xuemei, who came to see her. Feng Yu, I've always wanted to thank you for reporting Mr. Li. I didn't have the courage to do it myself. Especially thank you for spending time tutoring me. My math grades have improved a lot this semester, all thanks to you. Feng Yu sighed. Not sure to whom she was speaking. It's a pity it's all useless now. Finally admitting it, Lu Shichuan appeared in front of her. You said Gu Xiangxiang was jealous and bullying you. I even felt sorry for you at first, but you've been deceiving me all along. Gu Xiangxiang never saw you as a rival. It was you who were jealous of her, right? You schemed to get close to me, playing the victim, all for the resources of my family. Feng Yu, you really disgust me. Feng Yu watched him quietly, whispering, no, I really did like you. Lu Shichuan disbelievingly responded, I would never like someone like you, a rat from the sewers. It has come to this, let's start over. Feng Yu suddenly broke free from the watch of two teachers, smashed the principal's porcelain cup on the corner of the table. She picked up a sharp shard, pressed it against my shoulder, aiming directly at my carotid artery. But she was no longer a match for me. I grabbed her wrist, twisted it hard, and the porcelain shard dropped. Tears streamed down her face from the pain. Several teachers rushed over, pinning her to the ground. You still don't realize your mistake and want to commit more violence. Feng Yu lay on the ground, raising her neck stubbornly like a stranded fish. I crouched beside her. There's no next round, just serve your time in prison. I returned home, where my grandfather was watering the flowers at the door. And my grandmother made my favorite braised pork. Grandfather said to me, baby, don't overwork yourself. We don't ask you to stand out, just to be safe and happy. Grandfather's face was sunny and warm, bringing warmth to my life. After high school, I was recommended for admission to T University due to my outstanding research achievements, while Lu Shichuan went abroad to study. Feng Yu, guilty of stealing trade secrets and attempted murder, ended up in prison. Hu Xuemei was admitted to a prestigious university. One day in my freshman year, I and teacher Zhou Quan went to a factory in the suburbs of Beijing to discuss cooperation. Coming out, I unexpectedly saw Lu Shichuan waiting for me on the roadside. Yo, you're back in the country. He looked up, his eyes brimming with countless emotions. With the experience of my two lives, those eyes could never belong to an 18-year-old youth. I was rooted to the spot. Is it you? Have you come back too? Lu Shichuan asked me warmly. Do the words you said at my doorstep that year still count?